Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, 2017 has ended, and 2018 has begun. So, why did LEGO Dimensions end after 2 years? Most of you may remember my LEGO Dimensions review from a few years ago, but here's what the game is short, sweet and to the point. LEGO Dimensions is a Toys to Life video game based on many different LEGO themes released in 2015, and then it soon ended after Year 2's waves. Since I've already talked about the story for LEGO Dimensions in Year 1, I'm just going to talk about the additions that were made for Year 2, and some of the things that I thought would have made a great addition to the game if a Year 3 had come. Year 2 of LEGO Dimensions contained many new characters from many different franchises, including Adventure Time, which starred pretty much every original voice actor from the original show, some archive recordings and others new recordings, including Tom Kenny, Mark Hamill, John DiMaggio, Ron Perlman, and Olivia Olsen as Marceline, my personal favourite character from the Adventure Time packs.
Can I drink one of your hearts? I mean, it's not like you need both of them or anything.
And I'm really glad that they got the original voice actress to come in and voice Marceline for this game. It just makes you want to have her in future LEGO movies in the big screen in the future.
Eat the cookie! Eat the cookie! Eat the cookie!
Then there's Beetlejuice, with of course Beetlejuice as the main character of this franchise. Raven, Beast Boy and Starfire from the much hated Teen Titans Go franchise. And one interesting thing about the Teen Titans packs is that each one you buy comes with a Teen Titans Go episode with the LEGO Dimensions. It starts off like a regular episode of Teen Titans Go and then transforms into LEGO with CG LEGO elements like in the video game. And while I'm not a fan of Teen Titans Go myself, I personally do find the episode that they made for this video game quite funny, and it almost seems like these were originally intended to be cutscenes for a level pack. Plus, I love that they used the original theme song performed by Puffy Yumi for the original Teen Titans cartoon. That just kicks ass. There's E.T. the Extraterrestrial, with E.T. as the main character in a fun pack. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, with all your favourite characters from the film, as well as a story pack, which features the story of the movie, in LEGO form. There's also a story pack from Ghostbusters 2016, which is really awesome to me because I loved the new Ghostbusters movie. And it's a cool way to get to interact both generations of Ghostbusters together. There's the Gremlins from that popular movie The Gremlins, and I'm quite surprised that they've actually put this franchise into this video game, since I'm not entirely sure if Gremlins is meant to be for kids. And there's Harry Potter, which mostly contains archive recordings from the original films, and you can play as either Harry Potter, Lord Voldemort, or Hermione Granger. And while it's not new recordings, it is really awesome to hear Voldemort's Ray Fiennes voice in LEGO form. And there's the Knight Rider world with Michael Knight and Kit, which a lot of Knight Rider fans will really love. Another really popular one is LEGO City with Chase McCain from the LEGO City Undercover games. And those like myself who have played LEGO City Undercover will find this an awesome addition because it's already an existing LEGO franchise, and it's just great to see Chase McCain in LEGO Dimensions. There's Mission Impossible, which comes with a level pack, and you get to play through a story from Mission Impossible. Now, I'm not entirely sure which movie it's supposed to be based off of, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the movies. And for me, the most awesome part of the level pack is the fact that Simon Pegg comes in to voice a character that he played in the films, and he gets to make a cool reference to Shaun of the Dead.
Right, I've got a new plan. Go to the canteen, have a nice cup of tea, and wait for all this to blow over.
Amazing, marvelous, stupendous, colossal, tremendous, gigantic, astounding, unbelievable, spectacular, phenomenal! And it's good, too.
There's the A-Team with B.A. Baracus, not voiced by Mr. T. And it's really awesome because you can either play as him, or in some of the story and level packs, there are some things that require him to fix things for you. There's also the Goonies with a level pack which contains so many references and cameos to 80s films that are included in this game. The references to 80s movies in Year 2 really shows that the makers of this game loved the 80s so much that they wanted to show it in this game. There's the Powerpuff Girls, not the original show, the reboot I mean, which has pretty much every original actor coming back to voice the characters, and you get to have Blossom, Bubbles and Buttercup as playable characters, interact with many of the LEGO versions of the Powerpuff Girls characters, and the most awesome thing in my opinion is bringing Roger L. Jackson in to voice Mojo Jojo. Another awesome thing to point out is the fact that Powerpuff Girls will be getting LEGO sets this year. Now that's awesome. There's the LEGO Batman movie, which I thought was a bit of a no-brainer since the LEGO Batman movie was released at the time and they did have the LEGO movie in this game. For some fans it was kind of a no-brainer that the LEGO Batman movie would make it into this game since the LEGO movie was in the game first. Though at first I didn't really know if they were going to put LEGO Batman movie in LEGO Dimensions or if they were going to make it a standalone release. But I'm really glad that they put it in this game and made it a story pack, even though they didn't really include cutscenes from the movie like they did in the LEGO movie video game, and it was just some new recordings and new CG stuff that they used for the video game. But all the same, it's really awesome to play a LEGO video game version of the LEGO Batman movie. And one of the most awesome additions to the game, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Magic.
Every original actor that currently voices the characters comes back to voice every character, including Roger Craig Smith as Sonic the Hedgehog himself.
Hey, you're the doctor, right? I heard you named a screwdriver after me. How cool is that?
And if you place him with Bart Simpson in the game, he makes an awesome reference to his cameo in the Simpsons episode. And I think Roger's recording of that line is so much better than the original version in the episode.
Hey, Bart, remember, if you see a gold brick lying around, just take it. Take it, take it, take it, take it. Take it!
And many fans like myself want to see Sonic the Hedgehog put into LEGO in real life. Because with this video game, I think it would be an awesome addition to the LEGO Collector's set. And the LEGO forms of Robotnik and Metal Sonic are just too damn awesome. The game also had some battle arenas for the characters to go face to face in and play off against other computer players, which was quite an awesome addition because it adds more variety to the video game. But sadly, the game would end after year 2, which is really a shame because there had been loads of rumours of a year 3. And if there had been a year 3, there'd have been so many other franchises that many people, including myself, would have wanted to see. Some of the ones I personally would have wanted to see were Looney Tunes, because I think it'd be awesome to play as the characters in LEGO form. And who wouldn't love to see the antics of Daffy Duck in this game? And since they had Sonic the Hedgehog in this game, I've always thought that they could have at least tried to get the rights to put Super Mario Bros. In the game. Since it's a no-brainer that they'd put video game characters in this video game, and I think it'd be awesome to see Mario interacting with Sonic again since the Olympic Winter Games and Smash Bros. Wacky Races I think would be a fun choice, because I'd love to see the characters from Wacky Races, the original show by the way, be in this LEGO form video game. And I think it'd be awesome just to play as Dick Dastardly in a LEGO video game. Power Rangers is a no-brainer for many fans, and there's some debate about whether or not it would be the Power Rangers for the TV series or the Power Rangers from the 2017 movie. But I personally think they should have done both. Like, it'd be awesome to have LEGO versions of both generations of Power Rangers, and I'd love to see how they do a LEGO version of Lord Zed. And since they have Unikitty from the LEGO movie in this video game, I think it would have been awesome if a possible year 3 would have had Unikitty from the new TV series on Cartoon Network. I mean, just think about it. How awesome would it have been to have two versions of Unikitty meet up with each other?
West, let me go pack some rainbow-colored Lego bricks. Hi!
And one character from the already existing franchises that were already in the video game I would have loved to have seen was a minifig version of Mojo Jojo. In a, like a team pack or a fun pack or something like that. Because I would just really love to have a LEGO minifigure of Mojo Jojo. But since they're already planning to bring out LEGO sets with Mojo Jojo, then that's already going to be a dream come true for me. If we had gotten a year 3 of LEGO Dimensions, then it might have given us that Lord Vortex fun pack that was rumoured. But sadly that was not to be. And since the rumour came out, no one knew if it would either be for year 2 or for the possible never to come year 3. And I personally think it would have been awesome to have had Lord Vortex as a playable character for year 2 or year 3 that never came to be. I mean, think about it. Who here wouldn't love to have a minifigure of Lord Vortex from the video game? And I think it would have been nice to see if they'd have tried to do the transparent body with him like in the game. And even though Warner Brothers don't have the rights to Star Wars, it would have been awesome to have seen LEGO Star Wars in the video game. Because as I said in my first review of the video game, who wouldn't love to play as Darth Vader in LEGO Dimensions? So even though LEGO Dimensions ended after 2 years, it did at least have a really good run and brought in lots of new franchises to the series of LEGO that could be made into physical sets one day. Personally, my money's on more LEGO Doctor Who sets to go with the LEGO TARDIS from LEGO Ideas, as well as a possible standalone LEGO Doctor Who video game. While LEGO Dimensions may now be over, we could still play the game and enjoy the 2 years of joy that it gave us. It's just really great to play this video game and look back on it and see many of the new franchises they introduced for the possibility of future sets. And if you haven't played this video game yet, then I'd highly recommend it for any video game fan and LEGO fan. It's got great characters, great new possible set ideas, and it's just an all-around great game. And if any more of these franchises introduced in this game ever get officially released as LEGO sets, we can all thank LEGO Dimensions for that, and buy those sets for the game's memories and all the great fun we had playing it. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks. I suddenly have this urge to play LEGO Dimensions. Yeah, I'll go do that. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Now you may remember near the end of last year I talked about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yep, that popular American entertainment and merchandising franchise built around a live-action superhero television series that ran on for 25 years, with 25 seasons and 3 full-length feature films. This show is a huge hit around the world. And tonight we're going to be looking at the Power Rangers movie. No, not that one. I'm talking about this classic from 2017. Power Rangers, also known as Saban's Power Rangers, is a 2017 American superhero film based on the franchise Power Rangers. It is the third Power Rangers film and is a reboot of the series. So how is the 2017 reboot of Power Rangers compared to the original TV series from the 90s? Well, let's take a look. Centuries ago, 6 warriors known as the Power Rangers are tasked with protecting life on Earth and the Zeo Crystal. The Green Ranger, Rita Repulsa, betrays them and plans to dominate the universe. The Red Ranger, Zordon, survives Rita's attack and hides the 5 power coins. He orders Alpha 5, his robotic assistant, to perform a meteor strike that kills him, the dinosaurs, and sends Rita to the bottom of the sea, foiling her scheme. In 21st Century Angel Grove, high school football star Jason Scott is dismissed from the team and placed under house arrest after a failed prank. In detention, he encounters Billy Cranston and Kimberly Hart. Billy deactivates Jason's ankle monitor after helping him with a bully. That evening at an old gold mine, the 3 teenagers, as well as 2 others, Trini and Zack, discover the 5 power coins and take 1 each. While escaping mine security, the car is hit by a train. The 5 find themselves home the next morning to discover the coins have granted them superhuman abilities. Elsewhere, Rita's body is found. Wakened, she goes on a rampage, hunting pieces of gold to raise her minion Goldar to find the Zeo Crystal. The 5 teenagers return to the mine and discover an ancient spaceship where they meet Alpha 5 and Zordon's consciousness. They inform the teenagers about the Rangers' history and Rita, warning that they have 11 days until Rita has her full power, finds the Zeo Crystal and uses it to destroy life on Earth. The 5 leave the ship with no intention of returning until Zordon pleads with Jason to convince the team. The 5 return to train the next day, but cannot morph. They spend the next week training against simulation putties and trying unsuccessfully to morph. And the whole film is basically the Rangers training to become Power Rangers and to stop Rita from taking over the world by finding the Zeo Crystal and destroying life on Earth. So being a Power Rangers fan myself, what are my thoughts of the new 2017 movie? It's better than I thought it was going to be back when it was first announced. When I first heard about the movie, I honestly didn't know what to expect from it. Was it going to be as corny and cheesy as the TV series is, or was it going to be taken seriously like most movies today? And I found to my surprise that it took it very seriously. It made it quite a dark and edgy movie. And that's quite a departure from the previous Power Rangers projects we've had over the years. Of course, being a reboot, they had to change certain things from the franchise, including backstories, teenagers' personalities, and all that other stuff. But you can't have a good Power Rangers story without good Power Rangers and other characters. So let's dive in and have a look at what the characters are like in this reboot. Jason Scott, played by Darkray Montgomery, was a former star quarterback of Angel Grove High School's football team before a failed prank led a run-in with the law. You could say here that Jason is the kind of teenager who would fight the law, compared to the TV series where he was the tough guy of the group. Yeah, there weren't really much to work with in the TV series, but here they expanded on it, giving him a backstory. There's Kimberly Hart, played by Naomi Scott, a former cheerleader who took part in the cyberbullying incident by spreading a private image of her friend around school. When I heard that this young woman was going to be cast as Kimberly, I honestly couldn't see anybody besides Amy Jo Johnson in the part. Of course, they had to choose a younger woman for this movie since Amy is not in her teen years anymore. But Miss Scott honestly played the part really well. And like I said with Jason, she didn't have much to go with in the TV series. She was just the gymnast girl of the group. And it's quite an interesting backstory to hear that she used to be a cyberbully. It just adds a bit more fins to her in the film. There's the Blue Ranger, Billy Cranston, played by R.J. Seiler. Did I say that correctly? Anyway, Billy is an autistic and intelligent loner. He is the classic nerd who has become a bully magnet. Now I find this quite interesting that they made Billy autistic, since I have autism myself. Now this doesn't really offend me in any way, because the actor really does play the part of an autistic guy really well. And there are some autistic people I know who are kind of like Billy. And some would argue that he's not supposed to be a black guy since he wasn't a black guy in the TV series, but let's be honest here. If Zack was the black guy in the movie, then it wouldn't exactly be politically correct putting him in the black suit like they did in the TV series. So, Billy being a black kid honestly never bothered me in this movie. There's Trini, played by Becky G, a new girl in town who is struggling to make friends and having difficulty relating to her family. She is also questioning her sexual orientation. In the TV series, Trini was the Asian girl with the lovely attitude who you'd really want to be around, and the wisest person in the show. But here she's an outlaw as well, kinda like Jason. Never giving a shit about nothing or nobody until she learns the meaning of friendship when she hangs around her new friends. And I think it's a relief that the kid they chose is a naturally American, since it wouldn't have been politically correct if they put an Asian kid in a yellow suit like they did in the TV series. There's Zack Taylor, played by Ludi Lin, a teenager who lives with his sick mother and fears that he will return one day to find her dead. Of course, in the TV series, Zack was the black kid of the group. But again, it wouldn't have been PC putting a black kid in a black suit like they did in the TV series. And I kind of see making Zack the Asian kid of the group sort of like when they introduced Adam in Season 2 of Power Rangers, since he was an Asian kid instead of a black kid in the black suit. This is sort of like a reference to the TV series when the second Black Ranger was an Asian kid. The personalities of the teenagers in this movie is very, very different from how they were in the TV series. But let's be honest, the characters in the TV series didn't really have that much personalities besides their personal interests and traits. There's Alpha 5, voiced by Bill Hader, the robot assistant of Zordon. In this movie, he's not exactly comical like he was in the TV series. He's more of a grounded robot who still says ay 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 a couple of times. But rather than just running around looking silly, he actually is quite a serious character in this movie.
They're teenagers, somewhere between infancy and full maturity. It's hard to explain, really.
And at first I wasn't too big on his design compared to the TV series design, but these days I don't mind the design. It just looks kind of awesome to me. There's Zordon, played by Bryan Cranston, the original Red Ranger and the Power Rangers' mentor. Zordon lived millions of years ago before his consciousness became part of the morphing grid at the time of his death. And for those of you who may not know, Bryan has been part of Power Rangers since the starter days. mainly as a voice for some of the monsters the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had to face, such as Snizzard and Twin Man.
Now you can take my firepower. Mirrors, mirrors all around. Smash the Rangers to the ground.
Probably worth the Google.
And most of you may remember him for his role as the dad in Malcolm in the Middle. But I really find it interesting to know that he was a part of Power Rangers even before this movie came out. That's just a really awesome bit of trivia. But the Power Rangers can only be as good as their main villain, Rita Repulsa. Millions of years old, she is the former Green Ranger who went rogue and killed her old team before being temporarily subdued by Zordon. She works to form the monster Goldar while attempting to steal the Zeo Crystal, an artifact that channels the Morphic Grid, a dimension that gives the Power Rangers their powers. A lot of people may miss that shouty voice that Brenda Goodman gave Rita in the TV series, but I really do enjoy Elizabeth Banks' performance in this movie since it was the first time I'd seen her as a villain. And she just plays the part really well. Of course, she doesn't say I got a headache as much as she did in the TV series. In fact, I don't remember a scene where she actually did say she had a headache. But they did let her say make my monster grow when Goldar was being created. That's something, right? And this movie was the first time I'd seen Elizabeth Banks play a villain since the first time I saw her was in the Lego movie as Wildstar. And I think she does a pretty damn good job playing this character. And I have to admit, when I first saw the design of the new Rita for this movie, I honestly just thought to myself, Poison Ivy, since her appearance looked very similar to Poison Ivy from the Batman franchise. But then when I watched the movie, I was amazed and surprised that she was the original Green Ranger before the new Rangers came up. And that just adds a new story to her, making her have a relationship with Zordon that was never explained in the TV series or possibly never happened in the TV series. And there's a strong possibility that if Lord Zed exists in this movie franchise, that he seduced her to the dark side. And that would be a very interesting story to see in a sequel. And there are many other characters in this movie, such as the teenagers' parents, their siblings, and a school bully who is basically the replacement for Bulk and Skull. And I can't really say much about this bully because I just don't find him that interesting. He's not comical like Bulk and Skull, he's not really much interesting, he's just a bully just because. And for Rita's minions we got the putties, who are depicted as stone golems that can be made from any earth element. Now this is a great departure from the TV series, since the putties were just people made out of clay. But in this one, they're actually made out of rock. You can see every bit of rock that these guys were made from. And then we have Goldar, a gigantic winged monster made out of gold. This was quite a departure from the TV series when you know the original Goldar. He was a fierce fighter who was the only competent person on the team. But here he's a silent but deadly monster that's gigantic even when he's first created. I wonder what the original Goldar's reaction would be like if he saw that. Dude, that's a lot of gold. And it's also worth pointing out that Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson, the original Green and Pink Power Rangers, made a cameo in this movie as Angel Grove citizens. When I saw the original Green and Pink Rangers from the Mighty Morphin series near the end of the movie, I was absolutely gobsmacked. I had no idea they were going to appear in this movie. Of course it was only a small cameo, but they were still there nonetheless, and it was really awesome to see them in this live action movie. Another thing they updated in this movie was the Power Rangers suits. Now in the TV series it was obvious that they weren't exactly power suits, and for the original movie from the 90s they did update them by making them look more like armour, and here they look kinda like Iron Man suits, though these aren't the first things to be made fun of for looking similar to Iron Man. But honestly, I like these designs for the power suits. It looks more like a robotic armour, and it just looks more powerful compared to the TV series. Now don't get me wrong, I still love the TV series power suits, but these are just appropriate for the modern day big screen movie. Now some people may complain that the Rangers don't appear in the Ranger suits as much as they did in the TV series, but I honestly don't mind that. Yeah, I honestly don't mind that the Rangers aren't in their power suits until the third act, because it really does show the Power Rangers getting to train to get their powers rather than just getting them instantly. Because in the TV series, the Rangers just get their powers just like that. But in this movie they take the time to develop the characters and show them in their training before they actually receive the ability to get their power suits. And that was something that the TV series hadn't done in the past, We also have the updated swords that look like the dinosaurs and dino animals they represent, but I gotta be honest, they don't look as spectacular as the TV series ones do. Even the Megazord doesn't look as kick-ass as it did in the TV series. We don't even get to see the swords actually form to make a Megazord. They just go down into the earth, fall into some lava, and then like that, they're combined into the Megazord. Showing how these things actually become the Megazord would be a must-do for the sequel if it ever comes out. But to their credit, they do have the great CG technology to pull off these things. The visual effects in this movie are pretty damn good compared to how they would have been in the 1985 movie, with better CG technology and better effects and so on and so forth. Even though most of the fans enjoyed this movie, it was met with mixed reviews upon its release, with criticism primarily focusing on its uneven tone, product placement, and changes from its source material. The movie was labelled a box office disappointment. Now to this day it still bothers me why critics claim this a box office bomb, since it made more than enough of its budget in the box office. Okay, it's not like a huge amount of money they made in the box office, but it's still more than what they spent on making this movie. And I suppose it's pointless to talk about this movie without pointing out its product placement, Krispy Kreme. During the movie we discover that the Zeo Crystal is buried underneath a Krispy Kreme donut shop in Angel Grove. And as soon as that's discovered, the characters just say Krispy Kreme loads of times in this movie. With the amount of times they say Krispy Kreme during the climax of the movie, you could pretty much nickname it Krispy Kreme Presents Power Rangers.
It's a Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme.
We gotta go to Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme!
Billy, you circle the Krispy Kreme and make sure he's safe.
There's even a scene where Rita goes into the donut shop before it gets destroyed and then eats one of the donuts. That just had a lot of people laughing when I went to see it in the cinema. So while this product placement is incredibly ridiculous, it doesn't really drive away from the story of this movie, in my opinion. This movie was so popular that Lionsgate and Saban, in collaboration with Enway Games, released a mobile phone video game called Power Rangers Legacy Wars, which featured Power Rangers from the movies and the TV series, so you get to fight as Power Rangers from the movies, the TV series, as well as villains from the movie and TV series. The second I downloaded that game, I just got Lord Zed as a playable character. I didn't care how much stuff it would cost me, I just had to be Lord Zed in the game. And for those of you who may not have seen the movie yet, it ends with a little cliffhanger showing that Tommy Oliver could make an appearance in the possible sequel. And if they do make a sequel for this movie in the future, I'm honestly banking on Lord Zed being in it. And if they can't get Robert Axelrod to do a voice cameo as Lord Zed, I hope they do at least find someone who can do a pretty good job of being Lord Zed. And I'd love to see how badass Lord Zed would look in this movie compared to the TV series. And this movie was so good that I'm honestly hoping that they do a sequel to this movie. So even though this movie is considered a box office disappointment, Saban's Power Rangers is one of the best movies I've seen in 2017 in my opinion. To me it stays true to the TV series, but adds a new adulty edge to it for those who grew up with the show in the past. It's got great effects, great casting, great directing, and it's just a great film in my opinion. So if you're a Power Rangers fan or just getting into Power Rangers, then this movie is definitely worth your time and money. And if you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend it for any Power Rangers fan or any fan who wants to get into Power Rangers. You'll have a mighty morphin' time of it. Are there any other things you'd like to see in a potential Power Rangers sequel? Well, leave them in the comments section below or post a video saying your opinions. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.
We gotta go to Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme!
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. We all know the famous voice actress Tara Strong and her great legacy she's had since the 80s, right? For most kids in the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, Tara Strong was a huge part of a lot of people's childhoods, voicing many memorable characters including Hello Kitty, Raven, Bubbles, Omi, Twilight Sparkle, Timmy Turner, Angel, Mushi, and most recently Unikitty in the Unikitty Show. This famous Canadian actress has been around for a long time and has been in a lot of films. Even if you didn't know it, you probably would have heard her voice in several projects. It's true she's voiced a lot of unforgettable characters in her time, but there's one character that everybody seems to overlook. Yeah, for all the memorable roles that Tara Strong has had over the years, very few people remember her role as young Celeste in the Babar TV series from 1989 to 1991. Based on the books by Jean D. Bernhoff and Laurent D. Bernhoff, the plot centres around Kim Babar and his wife Queen Celeste, and their young children, Flora, Alexander, Pom and young Isabel. Most of their adventures would be about the family getting along together as a family, and Babar learning to be a good king. The first 2 seasons focuses on Babar telling his children stories about when he was a young elephant, learning how to be a king after he was traumatized by the slaughter of his mother, and how he learns the ways of humans in the city and adapts it to the home of Celesteville, which was named after his girlfriend and soon-to-be Queen Celeste. And of course, because the characters were young back then, they had to have child actors voicing the characters. And one of the most notable ones that not a lot of people remember is Tara Strong voicing young Celeste for those first 2 seasons. Yes, even though Tara Strong voiced young Celeste in the Babar TV series, everybody just seems to overlook that role. I never really understood why.
That is the saddest thing I ever heard ever!
Tara's role as young Celeste was back in the day when she was still a young child actress. So judging by the fact that she was born in 1973 and the fact that the show aired in 1989, she would have been at least 15 or 16 years old at the time the show came out. Another factor of it could have been the fact that she had a different last name back then. She wasn't always known as Tara Strong. Back then she was known as Tara Charandoff, which really confused some people for being a different woman.
Coincidence? I think not!
But no, if you look on Wikipedia, Tara Strong and Tara Charandoff are the same person. But having a different name back then can lead to some confusion. And her character, Celeste, was really likeable as well during her childhood. She has a regal presence, an engaging manner, and a gentle sense of humour.
Remember, Jungle Peg? How could I forget? You're it. You can't hide from me.
And it was easy to see in the very first episode that Babar and Celeste had a crush on each other since their childhoods. And it developed more and more as the seasons went on.
It's almost dawn. I kept you up all night, Celeste.
Tell me again about the elephant city, Baba. It sounds wonderful.
And yet people seem to toss this role aside since they mostly remember her for playing superheroes, young boys, young girls, and ponies. It may also be worth pointing out that back then Tara wasn't very well known in those days. She mostly took on roles like Hello Kitty in the anime series. So back then she wasn't as well known as she was in the 90s, early 2000s and today. But that's still no excuse for overlooking this well-written character that she plays. Yeah, people may remember her as Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, and Twilight Sparkle from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Raven from Teen Titans, and Unikitty from, well, Unikitty. But young Celeste is one of the roles that I mostly remember her for, as well as the ones I've listed. And the show Babar itself is really entertaining, coming from the same company that adapted The Adventures of Tintin into a TV series in the 90s. So you can tell that this show was really well crafted, and it shows that the people who based the show on the books really cared for the books and wanted to show that love into their creation. So the show is definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of Babar and animation. And it's also worth checking out if you're a Tara Strong fan. True, young Celeste may have been quite a small role for Tara Strong since she only stuck around for like 2 seasons, but it's a role that doesn't deserve to be overlooked or ignored. So while all of Tara Strong's roles from then to now are really memorable and likeable, then I suggest you go back to watch Baba and see how she does as young Celeste. It's a character she plays that doesn't deserve to be overlooked or ignored, and I'm sure you'll have a great kick watching this series and hearing Tara's young voice as young Celeste. It's a role that's definitely worth remembering. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.
So you're telling me that you had another personality because of a piece of metal on your head?
Steel, actually, Blake. And yeah. And it wasn't hard getting that cyber technology off my face, I could tell you.
How did you get it off?
Well, I had to use a hammer and a chisel.
Did it hurt?
Like hell, Blake. Like hell. But on the upside, I did get to keep the Cyberman that he built.
Cybermat?
Yeah. And here he is. I call him Bitey.
Aw, that's quite cute.
Don't be fooled by his appearance, my dear.
Ah!
I don't call him Bitey for nothing.
So I see. By the way, how long have you been into robots and stuff?
Ever since I was a child, robots were one of the many things I grew up with. Robots from Star Wars, Power Rangers, Sonic the Hedgehog, Robot Wars, you name it. Robots were a part of my childhood. But during my teenhood, a show on Cartoon Network was a particular favourite of mine.
Oh?
Yep, and that show was called Robotboy.
Robotboy? Don't you mean Gadget Boy?
No, that was a crappy Inspector Gadget ripoff. This was made by French production company Alphanim from France 3 and Cartoon Network Europe. Robotboy first aired in the UK on Cartoon Network in 2005 and ran for 4 seasons ending in 2008.
Oh yeah, I'm quite familiar with that show, but it's been a while since I've seen an episode.
Tell you what, why don't you stick around while I review the show and then see if you can pick up the small bits from there.
I like that very much.
Okie dokie, let's go. The show follows the adventures of Robotboy, the latest creation of the world-renowned scientist Professor Mishimo, voiced by Togo Igawa. Due to fears that Robotboy would be stolen by his arch-enemy Dr. Kamikaze, voiced by the late E.G. Kusuhara, and his main henchman Constantine to be used to take over the world.
Professor Moshimo entrusts Robotboy to 10-year-old Tommy Turnbull, his biggest fan. While being protected by Tommy and his 2 friends Lola and Gus, or G-Man as he calls himself, Robotboy learns how to behave and act as if he were a real boy, while occasionally battling Dr. Kamikaze and Constantine, who sought out to capture him.
Wow, you caught on pretty quick.
Well, listening to you talk about the plot jogged my memory.
Cool. This show was released during what most people claim to be the last of Cartoon Network's golden age. You know, the studio that made like 80% of the best cartoons during the 90s and early 2000s and shut it all away.
So?
This was back before we hated them. But I digress.
The voice actors in the show include Lawrence Bovard as Robotboy, Lola, Debbie, and pretty much half the cast, Lorraine Pilkington as Tommy, Rupert Degas as Gus, Constantine, Donnie, and about a third of the cast, Louis McLeod as Dwight, and another third, Eiji Kusuhara as Dr. Kamikaze, and Togu Igawa as Professor Moshimo. Despite the fact that most of the show's characters are voiced by British actors and actresses, they have American accents.
You're kidding.
Nope, I'm serious. Wikipedia says so. Plus, it doesn't help that most of the series takes place in San Francisco.
Well, I can believe that. I mean, after all, Teresa Gallagher does a damn good American accent as Nicole Waterson.
True.
And speaking of characters, this show is not short of them, so get out your bag of Haribo because there's a lot to get through. There's the title character Robotboy, Mishimo's latest invention, a robot who has 3 modes: deactivated, which makes him look like a toy, activated, which speaks for itself, and super activation, which comes with weapons including lasers, which was mainly used for self-defense and when defending his friends.
Robotboy is superior to other robots since he has human emotions. He loves learning new things about real boys, having fun and playing with his friends Tommy, Lola, and Gus like any real boy. In fact, his dream is to become a real boy himself.
So, how was your new bed? Hey, it's good. Nice. Deactivation. Awesome. I gotta go to school. What are you gonna do? Think I stay in bed for a while. Stay off. Gee.
Similar to Pinocchio, except he's a robot instead of a puppet.
I'm not a puppet. I'm a real boy.
Sure you are.
His best friend is 10-year-old Tommy Turnbull, Moshimo's biggest fan and mentor to Robotboy. He is smart, responsible, sensitive, and likable. He tries to teach Robotboy the ways of the world through his eyes.
Mommy, why Mom do hip hop? I don't know. Adults like to pay lots of money to learn to look like a fool.
He's the son of Debbie Turnbull,
AKA one of the hottest mums in cartoon history.
and Dwight Turnbull,
AKA worst dad of the year.
and the little brother of Donnie Turnbull.
AKA worst fucking brother ever.
What the heck are you doing?
Well, pointing out the family's flaws, of course. Except Debbie, since she has no flaws.
But wouldn't it make more sense to do that when actually talking about them?
Yeah, usually, but on a time schedule.
Fair enough.
Lola Mabula, Tommy's unofficial girlfriend and the daughter of a wealthy African ambassador. So basically, she's absolutely minted.
Minted?
Rich.
Oh.
She is confident and smart, can fly jet planes and control speedboats despite her age. Wow, she's like the MacGyver of this town. And is secretly in love with Tommy, but would be devastated if he ever found out.
Why?
No idea, they never explain it. Anyway, Lola is what I like to call the brains of the group, as she thinks before acting, whereas Tommy just goes right in there and Gus is, well, stupid. She's also the one who hits Gus when he's asking for it.
Please note that these descriptions of the character do not reflect my views on the actual character. Gus, aka G-Man, is Tommy's overweight, rude, and self-centered best friend. Despite coming from an Amish family, Gus is obsessed with food and video games. Usually, it is his selfish nature that gets everyone into situations caused by kamikaze.
So, he's a complete fuck-up then.
Well, when you put it that way, it makes him sound like a terrible person. But yeah, there's one way to describe him. He has many similarities to Eric Cartman from adult cartoon South Park, including a similar voice and being fat. However, he doesn't get his way like Cartman does.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Professor Mishimo, voiced by Togo Igawa.
Oh my gosh! You mean Hiro from Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, Kakuro Ozu from The Ed Is On, The Hedgehog, and Mr. Yoshida from The Amazing World of Gumball?
That's right, my dear. He was also Johnny English's Tibetan guru in Johnny English Reborn, and Dr. Tanizaki, cybernetics expert from the Torchwood episode Cyberwoman.
I didn't know he was in the Doctor Who spin-off.
Well, he did die during being upgraded into a Cyberman after the first 10 minutes of the episode.
Oh my gosh! That's horrible!
Well, what do you expect for a show that's rated 15? Anyway, Mishimo is the creator of Robotboy. He gave his creation to Tommy after receiving a fan letter from his biggest fan. He sent Robotboy to young Turnbull to protect him from his rival, Dr. Kamikaze, and to teach him how to be a real boy. He also has a beautiful fiancée named Mew Mew.
Other characters include Tommy's mom Debbie, an average woman beauty-wise and housewife, his dad Dwight, an assertive man who never thinks things through and is seen to have done something terribly wrong, and his older brother Donnie, a constant bully to every child in the neighborhood, including Gus and Tommy himself. Despite this, Tommy still treats him as family.
Seriously? If I was Tommy, I'd have disowned that prick in half a second.
There are the many villains and evildoers who constantly try to steal Robotboy from Tommy for their own evil purposes.
Wait a minute. You forgot the one character that most people overlook when it comes to Robotboy.
Oh, really? Who?
Robot Girl, of course.
Robot Girl?
Yeah, she's the female version of Robotboy, where she shares certain physical traits, ears, size, head shape, etc. Except she also wears a pink bow and a pink skirt and has eyelashes to look more feminine. Robot Girl is playful, curious, kind and cheerful. She's known to like to play games with her friends, such as tag. Unlike Robot Boy, Robot Girl can do certain things that Robot Boy cannot, such as think with her emotions. Even though she only appeared in 2 episodes of the show, she became a fan favourite among many, including myself.
How can a character that only has 2 appearances leave such a huge impact?
Honestly, I have no idea. But on YouTube, the views for her very first episodes are through the roof compared to the other episodes. Look.
Wow! Over 6 million views? That's awesome!
Well, by the time we finish this review, it might go up to 7 million views. After meeting Robot Boy for the first time, she takes an immediate liking to him, and they become good friends as Robot Boy teaches her everything he knows from Mishima.
Hello. You cute. We have fun playing now. Yes, please.
There have even been some fan works of them together romantically.
Wait a minute. Since Mishima created them both, wouldn't that technically make them siblings?
Practically, but Mishima invented her as a friend to keep Robot Boy company when Tommy went on holiday with his family. So it's kind of the same logic behind Stitch and Angel being boyfriend and girlfriend despite being created by the same guy.
Fair enough. Anyway, there are the many villains and evildoers who are always trying to steal Robot Boy for their evil purposes.
But the main villain of the show is the evil Dr. Kamikaze, voiced by the late Eiji Kusuhara, a criminal genius whose plan is to capture Robot Boy and use him to help Kamikaze achieve his lifelong dream of, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
He is very small but very diabolical and very dim-witted at times.
Kinda like those classic cartoon villains you see in old cartoon shows from the 80s and 90s.
You think you can capture Robot Boy with this? What do you expect to do? Suffocate him with fumes? Incapacitate him with laughter? Now go, make me tapas!
He has a lust for power, a short temper, and always blames his minion Constantine for his failed attempts to capture Robot Boy.
Constantine, I blame you!
One of the running gags with Kamikaze is the fact that he has had many pets, ranging from snakes to cats who usually always hurt him.
How about Mr. Snakey? Did the scary monster frighten my lips?
I know how you feel, man. I almost had a Koopa Trooper that treated me badly too. So, Mr. Turtle, would you like a snack? No! So, is that a yes or no? Oh. I just want to know if you want some food! I also think it's awesome that they got Japanese actors Togo and Ijiji to voice Mishima and Kamikaze, as it adds realism to the characters and their homelands, similar to Hero from Thomas and Friends, Le Frog from Flushed Away, and many more.
How is a happy, non-fighting robot going to help you take over the world? Why do you always have to burst my bubble? I finally have a Robot Boy, and you can't let me enjoy it for 1 minute, can you? I have prevailed. I have captured the Robot Boy. Fight! Curse you!
Boss, I wouldn't do that if I were...
Oh, sweet mother of invention, that hurts!
Among the many clones he's created, his harebrained schemes are always joined by his henchman, Constantine, a giant of a man who has a high level of physical strength, skilled in sumo wrestling, and is just the nicest guy you could ever meet.
Seriously, you could just have a conversation with him and he wouldn't come across as the kind of guy who was cut out to be evil.
You remember what the dentist said about candy?
There you are!
I'm sorry for your love. How about I break you a thigh?
I forgot the autopilot! I fucking airhead!
If only more henchmen were like him. He spent his early years in an orphanage until he was adopted and raised by Kamikaze. Unlike Kamikaze, he is generally not at all an evil person, and has shown himself to be very caring towards other people and animals as well. He is also somewhat friendly towards Tommy and his friends at times, despite them being enemies. He also is a dedicated chef at times, whenever he cooks kamikaze, especially tapas, and other Spanish-based foods.
You know, sometimes I think the main reason that Kamikaze keeps Constantine around is because of his great cooking.
It sure looks that way.
There are many other villains that are around to ruin Robotboy's fun, such as Bjorn Bjornsson and his robot Bjornbot, a 10-year-old asshole who wants to destroy Robotboy so that his robot can be the best in the world. General Yakitori, half-man, half-robot, who has a rivalry with Kamikaze for the best evil genius. Special Agent, aka Kurt's dad, a secret agent obsessed with proving Robotboy's existence to the government.
Klaus van Offenkugel and his monkey boy Ludwig, a wealthy man with a fragile body who wants Robotboy's parts to become strong to get revenge on those who mocked him during his childhood.
It's even been proven in one episode where the characters get stuck in a roadblock that Avenkugel and Kamikaze have a rivalry with each other.
Avenkugel, you are not invited to our celebration.
Yes, so no cookies for you, or your big smelly monkey boy.
It is I who will be celebrating as soon as you kindly hand over the robot.
Man, is there any villain on this show that doesn't know each other?
Oh.
Vance Cosgrove, a crazy journalist who believes in supernatural things and aliens. The running gag with him is the fact that everyone calls him crazy.
Thelonious Hetz, a magician who is honestly the least exciting villain on the show. But I will say this, having a villain who isn't after Robotboy was a fresh change when Hetz was introduced. Seriously, all he wants is revenge on Gus for making a fool out of him and heckling him during a magic show. It's kind of like Maleficent's motivation. All Gus does is heckle him during a magic show, but the cartoonish lengths he'll go to just to get revenge are pretty fun to watch.
There are of course other villains who don't leave much of an impact compared to all the others, including Brainiac, a super genius yak who wants revenge on Moshimo for turning him into a freak, Kurt, the typical school bully, Principal Culpepper, the school principal who takes her students' toys and keeps them for herself because she never got to play with toys during her childhood, and a bunch of other forgettable villains.
And of course there's Protoboy, Mishimo's first prototype robot with the same abilities as Robotboy and Robotgirl, but lacks their humanity. He was kidnapped by a young Dr. Kamikaze and turned evil. So evil that not even Kamikaze could control him. His first appearance in Season 1 was meant to be his only appearance since he was blown up and you don't come back from the dead. But in Season 4 he came back for 3 episodes, which was a fucking stupid idea.
Why do you say that, Dalek44?
Well, you know how Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Kenny, to name a few, were killed off and then resurrected multiple times with no explanation?
Yeah?
The same thing applies to Protoboy. He was destroyed in his first appearance and was never seen again until they randomly decided to bring him back in the final season of the show. Now this makes no sense because he's a freaking robot. When you're a robot, you only come back from the dead if someone rebuilds you. But Protoboy came back 3 times, just because. Yep, after being blown up twice, had his cables removed from his chest and fallen into lava before an abandoned factory explosion, the little fucker just wouldn't die.
I see your point. I mean, if they're gonna bring back a deceased character, the least they could do is provide an explanation of how he comes back. Some of the writers must have really wanted to use him again or something.
That was the logic I arrived at as well. The animation of Robotboy is what I'm guessing is hand-drawn with a mix of CGI every now and then, similar to Star Wars The Clone Wars. Not that one. There you go. I say it's hand-drawn because it looks too good to be done with Adobe Flash or other computer systems some animated shows such as My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Teen Titans Go, The Amazing World of Gumball, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and many more use. While most of those shows are good, I have to admit, the animation isn't top-notch compared to classic hand-drawn cartoons. The movements for the characters seem to be limited to whatever the system is capable of doing and lacks the charm that hand-drawn animation has. In this show, the characters' movements seem natural.
The animation is quite interesting. The character designs remind me of classic anime a la Astro Boy, only a lot more colorful. The soft blues and whites in Tommy's home show the purity of Tommy's heart, while the harsher reds and black of Dr. Kamikaze's volcanic lair reflects his wicked rage. I quite enjoy a lot of the characters, because they're so well written and their actors give their all in bringing their characters to life. Honestly, I had a bit of trouble liking Gus at first. But as I revisited the episodes, I'm slowly learning to like him, and I do respect others' opinions on him. Characters I really enjoy are Robotboy himself, Tommy, Lola, Debbie, and especially Professor Moshimo and his fiancée Mew Mew.
My favourite characters from the show are Robotboy because I love how he wants to be a real boy one day and loves learning new things about real boys. And he's so adorable that you just want to give him a hug. I also love Robot Girl because of her playfulness and adorableness, and I find it a damn shame that she was only in 2 episodes. They could have written an episode where Moshimo lets her live with Lola to learn how to be a real girl. Hell, she could have even been given her own show. Kamikaze will always be one of my favourite villains in the show, as well as one of my favourite Cartoon Network villains. It's just so amusing to watch the Mad Doctor come up with new schemes to catch Robotboy and rule the world, and watch him fail. I also really love the banter between him and Constantine. That too is hilarious.
Constantine! Water!
Boss, I'd be happier if you'd have some milk. No thank you would suffice.
So in conclusion, Robotboy is without a doubt one of Cartoon Network's best shows from the end of the channel's golden age. It had fun characters, entertaining stories, and it's a ton of fun to watch.
I thought the show was really interesting when I first saw it, and I find it just as enjoyable when I revisit it. I do like some of Cartoon Network's new cartoons like Steven Universe and Unikitty, and a lot of the more classic shows like Dexter's Laboratory and Powerpuff Girls. But Robotboy, along with Conan Kids Next Door, were some of my favorite Cartoon Network shows in the middle grade section. Well, I must say it's been fun reviewing with you again after so long, Dalek44.
I'm glad you could stick around for this, Blake. We hope you all enjoyed our review of Robotboy. So go off, have a good time, and most importantly, don't watch any of Cartoon Network's shit shows from today.
And more importantly, avoid the Powerpuff Girls reboot and rewatch the original. I'm BorisFangirl, and it's been a blast.
Indeed it has, love. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time.
By the way, what are you gonna do with your cybermats?
Oh, I found some uses for little Bitey. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. And you're probably wondering why I'm surrounded by a couple of toys here. Well, it's because I'm paying a tribute to one of the greatest places of my childhood. And that place is Toys R Us. Toys R Us is an American toy and juvenile products retail founded in 1948, with its headquarters located in Wayne, New Jersey, in the New York City metropolitan area. In the years it was founded, Toys R Us became one of the most popular children's toy shops in the world, spreading out across the world. Toys R Us expanded as a chain, becoming prominent in its niche field in toy retail, represented by cartoon mascot Geoffrey the Giraffe from 1969. Toys R Us eventually branched out into launching the stores Babies R Us and the now defunct Kids R Us. This was the kind of place that all children wanted to go after school, and it was one of my childhood favourites too. Almost every weekend my parents would take me up to Toys R Us in Cribbs Causeway to have a look at the toys they had. I guess you could say it was sort of my reward for having to endure education at school for 5 days straight. The other reward for it was McDonald's every Friday for tea. Like McDonald's every Friday after school, Toys R Us was one of the biggest highlights of my childhood. Just going into the shop and seeing whatever toy there was that I wanted to buy. But whether you're a child or an adult, it was just awesome to see all the toys that they had in Toys R Us. From Power Rangers, to Doctor Who, to Transformers, to Barbie, if you're a chick and like that kind of thing. And of course Lego. Lego was so popular at Toys R Us that they eventually made a little event called Bricktober in October, where they'd have sales on the Lego products and special exclusive Toys R Us Lego sets and minifigures. The only two I have are the Lego Batman movie exclusive minifigures and the buildable Toys R Us store. And even when you've grown up, it's still great just to go inside the shop and see all the toys they have, especially the Lego sets if you're a huge Lego fanatic. Toys R Us for a time even did some exclusive Doctor Who action figures. Most of the ones I got are all the Doctor and the Dalek sets, ranging from Doctor number 1 to Doctor number 11, which featured all 11 Doctors at the time and one of the Daleks that each Doctor would encounter. Another set I have is an Asylum of the Daleks set, which I'm not sure if it came from Toys R Us or Forbidden Planet, but all the same it's an awesome set. I even ordered a Missy action figure from Toys R Us' website when it came out a few years ago. And before the game shops came out, Toys R Us was one of the first places me and my parents would go for new Nintendo 64 games. It was just that big a part of my childhood. But sadly, on December the 4th, 2017, disaster struck when the company reported that it would be liquidated and closed in at least 26 stores in the United Kingdom. Then in 2018, Toys R Us announced that they'd be closed in every store in the world. This was quite a shock to me and many people, because with a business like Toys R Us, you wouldn't expect it to go bankrupt, or however it went out of business. But whatever the reason for it going into liquidation, it was a huge shock to many people who grew up going to Toys R Us. And as I've said before, Toys R Us was a huge part of my childhood. So much so that I included one of the old Toys R Us adverts in one of my adverts reviews. Of course, having grown up with this toy shop, I went to Toys R Us in Cribs Causeway one last time a few weeks ago to say goodbye to one of my childhood heroes. And as you'd expect, many of the shelves in the shop were practically empty. Even the Lego sets were almost empty. It's funny, I never thought I'd see the day where Toys R Us would actually be almost out of stock of all their products, including Lego. And it's probably worth pointing out that in a 2004 episode of The Simpsons called Marge vs. Singles, Seniors, Childless Couples, and Teens and Gays, probably predicted the closure of Toys R Us. So as you can well imagine, a lot of Simpsons fans are really pissed off at that, and it gives them a reason to hate the show even more. The current show, I mean, not the classic episodes when it was funny. But still, it's a pretty big deal that The Simpsons may have predicted Toys R Us' closure. Like many of the celebrities that have passed away over the years, Toys R Us will still live on in many of the toys and products that we bought from it. And all the memories we have for the old adverts that you can find on YouTube. Like other businesses that went bust like Woolworths, Toys R Us was a huge part of my childhood, and I shall miss it dearly. There's no doubt in my mind that Toys R Us was one of the best toy shops of all time, and it's going to be really hard to beat this place. And for those of you who grew up going to Toys R Us or just love Toys R Us in general, then I'd highly suggest you get out all your toys and pay a tribute to one of the greatest toy shops of all time. It deserves that tribute. Thank you for all the memories, Toys R Us. You've been a great part of my childhood. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, it's that time again.
To make fun of people in Range Rovers?
To discuss how cute I am?
Oh, you idiots. It's Father's Day. Yep, Father's Day. A celebration honouring fathers and celebrating fatherhood. Much like Mother's Day, it's a great way of showing your father that you love them. With gifts, cards, sweets, and many other things. And what better way to celebrate this day dedicated to fathers than by reviewing the Lego Ninjago movie.
Your heroes on the way. We love to save the day. Gonna reach that place that takes us higher.
The Lego Ninjago movie is a 2017 computer animated movie as well as the third installment in the Lego movie franchise, based on the popular Lego sets for Ninjago. Is the third installment of the Lego movie franchise as awesome as the first two installments of the Lego movie franchise? Well, let's have a look and see. A young boy ventures into an old relic shop where he meets a mysterious owner, Mr. Liu, played by Jackie Chan, who begins to tell the boy the legend of Ninjago, a city within the Lego universe that is frequently terrorized by the evil Lord Garmadon, who is the father of Lloyd Garmadon and ex-husband of Coco. Ninjago despises Lloyd for being Lord Garmadon's son, which puts Lloyd under emotional stress.
That is the saddest thing I ever heard ever!
They do not know that Lloyd is part of the secret ninja force, consisting of Nia, Zane, Jay, Cole, Kai, and their master, Wu, also voiced by Jackie Chan, who always stop Garmadon from taking over the city by fighting with mechs, much like Power Rangers. On Lloyd's birthday, Garmadon attacks the city once again, only to be defeated. After his defeat, he begins to plan a big attack to conquer Ninjago. The next day, Garmadon attacks the city with his giant mech and defeats Lloyd. As Garmadon declares his rule over Ninjago, Lloyd returns with the ultimate weapon. He fires it, revealing it to be a laser that attracts a real-life cat named Meowthra. Meowthra starts destroying the city while trying to get the laser, much like a cat would.
Well, obviously.
Garmadon points the laser to make the cat destroy the other mechs, before Lloyd breaks it. As Garmadon celebrates his victory, Lloyd reveals that he is the Green Ninja and tells Garmadon that he wishes he weren't his father, leaving Garmadon confused. Lloyd meets up with his friends and Master Wu, who are all upset with him for using the weapon. Wu tells them that they must use an ultimate weapon to stop Meowthra from destroying the city, which they would reach by crossing the Forests of Danger, the Canyon of Death, and the Temple of Fragile Foundations. Garmadon overhears Wu talking about the weapon and follows close behind. And the race is on for our ninja team to save the city of Ninjago and for Lloyd to reconnect with his father Garmadon. That's the story of the Lego Ninjago movie, so how is it compared to the Lego movie and the Lego Batman? Well, it's not exactly up there with those two, but it's still a fun film. From the trailers, it's obvious that this movie is a father-son story, but it's also one of those high school superhero movies, much like Power Rangers. At first the movie gives us an impression that it's going to be a high schoolers and superheroes kind of thing. And it does start off that way. And then it turns into a father-son story. I get the feeling that a lot of fans would have liked this more if this was just a high school superheroes movie. But then they had to throw in that father-son thing that's been done to death in many films and TV shows. And many people could say that the relationship between Garmadon and Lloyd is a more comical take on Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader from Star Wars, with one being a hero and the other being a villain.
Lloyd? That's right. It's me, your son. And it's Lloyd, Dad.
No. L-L-O-Y-D. I named you.
You ruined my life.
How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there.
And while this movie has an interesting array of characters, there are only a few characters that get a huge time in the spotlight. There's Lloyd Garmadon, played by Dave Franco, the Green Ninja, leader of the Secret Ninja Order, Lord Garmadon and Coco's son, and Master Wu's nephew. I see him as a young teenager who's going through a lot of stress in his life, what with being the son of an evil dictator and having everyone hate him. And the only way he gets people to like him is when he's the secret Green Ninja that nobody even knows is him.
It's okay, Lloyd. Nobody's parents are perfect.
I mean, my mom is weird and collects seashells. Your dad levels cities and attacks innocent people. So, they've all got their quirks, you know?
It's a very nice way to teach kids that you should never judge a book by its cover. And just because someone's father is an evil overlord, that doesn't mean the son's going to be like the father. So, really, he's kind of like the angry teenage kid who just wants his father to be a good guy and he just wants to be accepted by everyone. And his friends include Kai the red fire ninja, Jay the blue ninja of lightning, Nia the silver ninja of water, Zane the robotic white ninja of ice, and Cole the black music-loving ninja of earth. I would talk about their character traits, but the movie doesn't really focus on them enough to give them good character traits, apart from their general interests. Like how Cole loves playing music, Nia likes motorbikes, and Zane's a robot trying to act like a human. They're not bad character traits, but they're not enough to make them relatable as characters. Which is a real shame because the Ninjago TV series on Cartoon Network gave a lot more time to develop their personalities. Especially with the relationship between Jay and Nia in the show. Now, I thought we did get a hint to it when they hugged each other when the building was collapsing, but that's about it. Now, I wouldn't mind so much if they gave a little time to show off a bit of their relationship with each other, but the movie doesn't really give them enough time to shine in order to do that. There's Master Wu, the wisecracking leader of the group, and Lord Garmadon's brother, and Lloyd's uncle. As soon as I heard that Jackie Chan was going to play this character, it got me and my mother immediately hooked for it, because we love Jackie Chan, and pretty much everything he's in is always going to be funny. And his character is no exception. He's like this wise old leader of the ninja group, as well as wisecracking. And he's one of the only other characters that gets enough screen time to develop a personality. And I don't think you could have gotten a better guy to play him than Jackie Chan. He just sounds the part every time he's on screen. He also plays the elderly shopkeeper who appears in the live-action parts of the film explaining the story of Ninjago. Then there's Lord Garmadon, played by Justin Theroux. The Dark Ninja, an evil overlord, father of Lloyd, ex-husband of Coco, and brother of Master Wu. He's the typical Saturday morning cartoon villain that just keeps trying to take over the city of Ninjago but always fails and just keeps trying again. So he's one of those persistent villains who's also a terrible father.
Scale of 1 to 10, how bad is it? Oh, I'd say it's about a 7-point arm ripped off.
And even though I've never watched the TV series, I think they did show off some personality to him where he used to be a good guy but then became evil through possession. But in this movie you get the idea that he was born evil and just loves evil things. And besides all that, there's not really much to his backstory besides how he met Coco and how they gave birth to Lloyd, and how they got separated from each other. Besides that, there's not really much to him other than the fact that he's a hilarious villain. I don't know if this version of Garmadon was born evil or had to go through some sort of crazy series of events that made him evil, but he's just a delight to watch. And some could say that he's kind of on the same level as Lord Business from the first Lego movie, since they're both tall characters. But one of the things that makes Garmadon different from Lord Business is the fact that he has 4 arms instead of 2. And I think that's a very interesting minifig design. Just this tall character that has 4 arms. And a majority of the lines they give him are pretty damn hilarious. And there's various other characters, including Coco, Garmadon's ex-wife and Lloyd's mother. She was formerly known as the legendary Lady Iron Dragon, an old hero of Ninjago. She's the sort of mother who just wants her son to be happy and fit in with everyone else. But besides that, there's not really much to her. So that's the main characters, and how are all the other characters in the movie? Well, to be honest, I kind of find myself hating a lot of the side characters. Like, the main characters are your typical heroes and typical villains, nothing really to complain about there. But the rest of Ninjago are just too damn mean in this movie. And I suppose that's quite funny for me to say since I watch shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad and the South Park that have all sorts of mean characters who do stupid things. But the people of this world are kind of like the citizens from Chicken Little, who are just constantly harsh and never give a break to the main character. The world of Ninjago in this movie is kind of like the world in Chicken Little, where the characters are too mean-spirited to just never give a break to the main character. Except here it's tolerable because the main character's dad is an evil overlord that destroys the city. And besides that, there's not really much to them except for the fact that they're mean assholes towards Lloyd just because of his father and his backstory. The animation in this movie is of course CG like in the previous films. And they give you the illusion to make it look like it's a stop-motion Lego movie, with some real-life elements mixed into it. Like, do you remember how in the Lego Batman movie where smoke and water and whatnot was all realistic stuff? compared to the first Lego movie where everything was made out of Lego except for the relics. Well, here it's sort of 50-50, where most of the city and the people and the animals and whatnot are all made of Lego, whereas Meowth and grass and trees and whatnot are all real life elements. Even the water's real life. This gives you the feeling that this could have come from one of the Lego TV series or TV specials or the video games, where you've got a lot of Lego elements as well as real life elements. Now, I've got nothing against that, but it just kind of feels out of place in this Lego movie universe. But then you could make the argument that this is probably a child and his friends or father playing with Legos in their back garden. I mean, that's the idea I got from it. At first I was kind of about the style of animation with realistic stuff mixed in with the Lego stuff. But I've learned to tolerate it because I see it as like children playing with their Lego sets in the back garden or something. Before they revealed that this was a world in China, I honestly thought that it was Lloyd playing with his father in the garden. But no, it's a different story that's probably taking place in the same universe as the first two Lego movies. And aside from relatable characters and asshole of citizens, there are a lot of funny moments in this movie. Like the majority of the stuff that Master Wu and Lord Garmadon say, as well as a few funny jokes. Like every time Garmadon comes to invade the city, everybody yells out his name. Even a freaking baby yells his name. And there's hilarious moments where Garmadon gets so pissed off of his minions that he ends up firing them. Literally firing them. I mean, every time he fires one of his generals, he literally fires them out of his volcano. That would just have me on the floor every time I watched it in the cinema. And there's another hilarious moment where Garmadon butt dials Lloyd, and his phone says, "Do not answer." That's a pretty specific message to put on your phone for a guy that you don't want calling you. I wish I had that kind of thing on my phone when chuggers call me. I also love how they build up Meowth as this big, scary monster, and then just reveal it to be just a normal cat. And I find it amazing that they used an actual cat on a green screen to make it look like he's actually in this Lego world. I mean, it's just creative how people can see this harmless cat as this big, giant monster that'll destroy everything. It's just hilarious. And there's also downsides to the humour as well. Not the actual humour itself, but the fact that there's some humorous moments that never made it in the final film. I mean, if you watch the teaser trailers, then you see a lot of things that never made it into the final cut, like a very different take on Lloyd's reveal to Garmadon. I mean, they still use the whole Lloyd thing and "you ruined my life, how could I ruin your life, I wasn't even there." But it's played very differently in the trailers, as all the ninjas are around Garmadon when it happens. But in the final cut of the film, it happens after Meowth destroys the mechs. And the one thing I find really annoying that didn't make it into the final cut is an exchange between a bride and a groom during one of Garmadon's attacks. Like, watch it.
I'm stuck! I know you want me to save myself, so I'll go now. I promise I'll never forget you!
I didn't ask you to promise that! Come back!
That was bloody hilarious, and I still don't understand why they didn't put it in the final cut. This could have easily played a part in one of Garmadon's 2 attacks on the city, and it still bugs me why they never put it in the final cut. I honestly think that a lot of people in the cinemas would have laughed their heads off at this scene, just making fun of how the Lego minifigure's legs connects in with the plates, giving it some Lego movie humour into the world like the previous films did. But aside from those few nitpicks, the Lego Ninjago movie isn't the best out of the Lego movie franchise, but I'd say it's at number 3 in the top 3. It's got a lot of humorous moments, some enjoyable characters, most of the side characters being assholes, and it also has a reference to Unikitty in the movie. Well, not a very big reference, but if you look at one of the side characters near the end of the film, they're wearing some pink clothes that has Unikitty's face on it. And that character's even made it in the Lego Ninjago movie minifigures blind pack series. As soon as that came out, I just had to have it. I didn't care how much it would cost me or how silly it would have been just to look for that one specific figure, but I just had to have it. So yeah, even though it's not as up there with the Lego movie or the Lego Batman movie, it's still an entertaining film in the Lego movie franchise. And it's definitely worth a watch if you love Lego and Ninjago. So even though this isn't the strongest of the Lego movie franchise, it's still worth a watch, especially if you love Lego and Ninjago. In fact, this movie was so popular that, like the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie, it got its own video game. So if you come across this film in the DVD shop, then I'd highly recommend getting it, just for your love of Lego and Lego Ninjago if you're a fan of Ninjago. I'd suggest you put it on and have a good time with LEGO Ninja action. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review of the LEGO Ninjago movie, folks. And remember to send your love to your fathers. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bow ties are cool.
Your hero's on the way.
Promise that. Come back.
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. And you're probably asking yourselves, why am I not in my usual setting? Well, it's because I'm having my old bedroom cleared out to make room for my new bedroom. And the football's going on right now, the FA World Cup. Yep, the FA Cup, that World Cup match of football that's been going on for God knows how long, that takes place every 4 years. A social event that brings people of all countries together just to watch them beat each other at a game of football. And while I'm not exactly a huge fan of football myself or the FA Cup, I do root for the home team every year it happens. And while I'm not really a huge fan of football, I am a fan of this film. Aardman is a 2018 British stop-motion animated historical sports comedy film directed by Nick Park and Aardman Studios. This was the first big-screen Aardman project since Shaun the Sheep the movie, as well as Nick Park's first project since the last Wallace and Gromit short. Can Aardman and Nick Park make a huge comeback in the big-screen world with Aardman? Well, let's have a look and find out. The film opens with an asteroid colliding with the prehistoric Earth, causing the extinction of the planet's dinosaurs, but sparing a tribe of cavemen living in a village. Finding a roughly spherical chunk of the asteroid that is too hot to touch, the cavemen begin to kick it around and invent the game of football. Many years later, during the Stone Age, a young caveman named Doug, played by Eddie Redmayne, lives in the village with the chief Bobnar and many other cavemen and women. One day, Doug suggests to Bobnar that they could try hunting woolly mammoths instead of rabbits, but he brushes him off. A Bronze Age army of war elephants led by the Lord Nuke, voiced by Tom Hiddleston, drives the tribe out of the valley and into the surrounded volcanic badlands, proclaiming that the Stone Age has ended and the Bronze Age has begun. Doug tries to attack the army, but falls into a cart and is unknowingly taken to Nuke's city. While trying to evade the guards and escape, he is mistaken for a football player and led into the pitch before a full stadium crowd. He challenges Noof's elite local team to a match with the valley at stake and promises that the tribe will work for Noof's mines forever if they lose. Noof dismisses the proposal at first, but changes his mind once he realizes that he can make a profit from the match. Doug discovers that although his ancestors invented football, the other members of his tribe are too dim to understand it, so he tries to teach them the rules of the game with the help of a local resident of the Bronze City named Guna, voiced by Maisie Williams. And the rest of the film is basically a sporting game with our heroes trying to learn the ways of football and the villain trying to win in any ways possible, even if it means cheating. So with Aardman, is Nick Park still at the top of his game? Yes. Yes, he is. In a world of live-action movies and CG movies, it's really nice to take a break from that and see a classic stop-motion film. And even though these days you can see the fingerprints on the plasticine characters, I really don't care about that, because it's really nice to see an old-fashioned animation on the big screen for so long. Unlike Space Jam, which is another sport film, Aardman is a really enjoyable film, with jokes that Nick Park only knows to do how. There are just so many jokes in this movie that have Nick Park's name written all over it. like some you recognise from previous shorts like Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, etc, etc, and some new ones that you've never seen from him before.
Let's take him away and kill him. Slowly. No, I mean, take him away at normal speed and kill him. Slowly, idiot.
If the film's a sporting story, then it must have characters to drive the plot, and thankfully it does. Our main character, Doug, voiced by Eddie Redmayne, is a Stone Age caveman who's very positive about everything and thinks that the tribe can do anything if they put their minds to it. He was also the one that discovered that his ancestors were playing football long before the Bronze Age citizens were. I see him as kind of the upbeat, positive, and always look on the bright side of life kind of guy, who thinks that they can do anything if he puts his mind to it. And the actor Eddie Redmayne really brings some good life and energy to this character. There's Chief Bovnar, played by Timothy Spall, who's the tribe's chief. And he's more of the, we can't really do much other than hunting rabbits, so why change what we're good at kind of person. At first he's very hesitant to give football a try, but once he sees that his tribe's hearts are pulled to it, then he decides to give it a go, reluctantly. And even though he has very little faith in a lot of Doug's ideas, it's never to the point where he's an unlikable guy. The chief may be the kind of person who doesn't think that he, Doug, and the rest of the tribe can do anything besides rabbit hunting, but it's never to the point where he's an unlikable douchebag. The other members of his tribe include Trebor, Magma, Asbo, Barry, Gravel, Grubub, Emark, Mr. Rock, and Doug's pet wild boar, Hobnob, played by Nip Park. Yep, the Nip Park plays a character in this movie.
Dear Diary, jackpot!
There's Guna, a tomboyish vendor and football enthusiast in the Bronze City whom Doug befriends. And she's like the streetwise kind of character who knows her way around the Bronze City and knows more about football than the tribe does. And many people would see that she's probably Doug's love interest in the film. And having watched the film many times, I can honestly say that she probably is his love interest, since he seems to be Twitter-pated by her when they first meet, and they hug and almost kiss each other in the film. And Maisie Williams brings a lot of life to this character, as well as that accent that she gives her. Personally, I remember her for her role as a Shielder from Doctor Who, since that was the first time I'd ever seen her in TV. And she brings a lot of life to this character, and I really love her performance. Then there's Lord Nuth, the evil king of the Bronze Age city and the main villain of this movie. He's the kind of villain who loves money and riches and will do anything to mine for other materials, like ore and bronze. And many people have said that Tom Hiddleston is very unrecognisable as the character with that French accent he puts on.
Excellent.
And I honestly agree with them, even though I don't remember seeing Tom Hiddleston in any other projects. And for those of you who may want a short, sweet and to the point analysis of this character, then maybe this will help it.
We've got to have money.
Yep, Nuth loves money. Or as in this case, bronze is a form of currency in the Bronze Age. He loves it so much that he'll kiss it and rub it against his face.
What is wrong with you?
Lord Nuth loves bronze so much that I sometimes wonder if he has a giant pool full of bronze coins and then dives into it like Scrooge McDuck.
So cold and hard and slippery.
He's also ruthless and would do whatever it takes to get what he wants, even if it means cheating his way to victory in the football match.
Your tribe were totally crap at football. You're losers, caveman. Always have been. Always will be.
Other characters include the Queen of the Bronze Age, and the Message Bird voiced by Rob Brydon, who I honestly think is one of the most funny characters in the film. Just his body language and the way he delivers messages to Lord Nuth from the Queen. It's almost as if he was watching the Queen make these body movements as if she was actually with Lord Nuth at the time. And Rob Brydon does a great job of bringing this character to life with his many voices.
Hello? Hello? How do you use this message bird thing? It's the Queen. Just speak into its ear, Mom. It will mimic everything it hears. Nuth? Perhaps she's heard about the game. Of course he hasn't heard about the game. I've heard about the game. You arranging a football match against a bunch of savages? You idiot! Imagine if we lost. We won't. I said imagine it. Exactly. The mighty Bronze Age, brought to its knees by a bunch of cavemen. When I'm warning you, Nuth, you'd better not lose.
End of message.
The animation in this movie is classic plasticine animation with a bit of CGI thrown in. The CG animation for Early Man is only used for certain things in the movie, like some of the backgrounds and other visual effects. But the majority of it is the classic plasticine animation, which is where Aardman really shines. And this looks like it's one of the biggest projects that Nick Park and Aardman have ever worked on, with the huge scale of the Bronze City and as well as their football stadium. Not to mention the thousands of people that go to watch the football matches during the film.
That's the best thing so far. Well, ever.
And one thing you may be interested to know is that I was actually in it. Yes, I know, that's hard to believe. But here's the story. For those of you who may not know, Aardman arranged a crowd recording session last summer at the Bristol Memorial Stadium to get a real feel of actual people rooting on their own football team, as it was more authentic than just getting some archive recordings of it. And I was one of the thousands of people that took part in this crowd recording. As soon as I'd heard about it on Facebook and by email, I just had to take part in it, because Aardman had been a part of my childhood, and I was very excited to have worked on a project with them. While it's kind of hard to make out my voice in the final film since I was recording with thousands of people, it's still just an awesome feeling to have been part of a studio's film that's been part of your childhood.
A caveman? A caveman?
Just lending my voice to a big screen movie made by Aardman Studios is a dream come true to me, and if the chance ever came again, then I'd definitely take it, without question. Despite the fact that the film received very positive reviews from critics, it was considered a box office bomb, mostly because it was released in the same weekend as Black Panther in the US and Coco in the UK, two high-grossing movies at the time, which I find a real shame since it was a well-written and well-animated and well-acted movie. And it is a real shame that it didn't get as much ratings due to being released on the same weekend as Black Panther and Coco. But I guess releasing a movie like this, along with other movies that are big hits, is kind of a gamble. But despite it being a box office bomb with positive reviews, it really is a great movie to add to your collection if you're a lover of Aardman and animation. Early Man is definite proof that Aardman Studios and Nick Park are still at the top of their game, and I look forward to seeing more of their works in the future. Early Man is without question one of the best animated movies I'd seen in 2018. It's got great comedy, great plasticine animation, great voice acting, great writing, and it's just great to see Aardman back on the big screen since Shaun the Sheep the movie, as well as being the Nick Park project. So if you haven't seen this movie yet and you're a fan of football, then I'd highly recommend it to get in the mood for the FA Cup and any other football match that you may love to watch. It's a great way to get into a football match and root for your home team. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time. It's time. Let's see what you look like. Oh, look at this. Oh, you are wonderful. Unusual setting. Well, it's because I'm having my old bedroom cleared out to make room for my new bedroom. I was actually in it. I just had to take part in it. Let's see what you look like. Buddy. Like it was never moved. Oh, hey everybody, I'm Dalek44. I didn't hear you come in. I've got myself a new bedroom and just been rearranging some of my stuff to make it feel like home. Changes. We all have to adapt to them at some point in our lives, haven't we? Whether it be a new school, a new job, or a new house, or a new whatever, change is a huge part of everybody's lives. And some accept the changes, and others not so much. But one of the biggest changes that a lot of us go through is the changes to famous movies and franchises we've come to know and love. Yeah, TV and movie franchises aren't far from change either. One way or another, TV and movie franchises have changed in different ways. Whether it be a reboot, reimaginings, remakes, or just a new look for the same thing. One of the most notable changes everyone's had to go through was changes to actors in Doctor Who. Mostly actors playing the Doctor himself. With various actors playing the lead title, including William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, the late John Hurt, Peter Capaldi, and most recently Jodie Whittaker. But it made sense to do it back in the 60s because it was becoming really hard to work with William Hartnell back in the 60s, because of his aging and other reasons that they mentioned in the Adventures of Time and Space special. And that change of the character has gone throughout the entire series, with each new actor giving a different take on the character but still being the same man, making them funny, energetic, serious, and just whatever they wanted them to be. The Daleks especially have gone through several changes in design since the 1960s, going from something that looked really dated to something that could really do some damage and take over the universe. Even the Cybermen have gone through huge changes since they were introduced in William Hartnell's final story in the 60s. Going from men wrapped in tinfoil wearing cloth on their faces, to men wearing tinfoil and masks on their faces, to things that actually looked like machines that could do some damage. And I know many of the other Doctor Who villains have had changes and updates over the years, but the Cybermen and the Daleks have had the most upgrades. Famous British comedy Blackadder has had a change in each series, starting off in medieval England, to Elizabethan times, to Georgian times, to a Charles Dickens story, to World War I, all of which had the same characters, but within a different time zone. And it made sense to do this since it was in different time zones, and each one were ancestors and descendants of each other. Only Fools and Horses went through a change after the actor who played Grandad Trotter passed away. After the actor who played Grandad passed away, they ended up getting a new actor to play the boy's Uncle Albert, a man who had sunk every single aircraft-carrying battleship he'd ever sailed on. While he was a different character, he still had it for a lot of laughs with his war stories and madness and so on and so forth. And it was definitely a welcome change. And it wasn't just shows like Doctor Who that had to go through some major changes that we all had to get used to. Lots of famous cartoons had to go through some changes throughout the years too. Children's TV shows like Thomas the Tank Engine have had a huge change of production since it was first made in 1984. What started off as a really creative TV show using models went to a TV show that uses CGI. And while I admit it is cheaper than having to raise the money to make the models every year, it just doesn't have the same charm as the model series did. But as time goes by, the show gets better and better than it did in the Sharon Miller era.
Of course!
So changes in writing and characters have definitely been made to the show for the better. Even video games have had the changed treatment, like Sonic the Hedgehog for example, having new video games added to the collection of the franchise, with some updates in the designs, the backgrounds, and even the voices. He'd even gotten some TV shows made about him, each one different from the last. And Goofy has had a few changes over the years that not that many people are aware of. He started off as a goofy guy who just falls down and gets out a chuckle and it's just fun kiddie antics. But there was a time back in the 40s where he used to be a serious adult type of person, going through things that everyday adults would go through, like road rage, smoking, and so on and so forth. And he was far from an idiot back then. But after those shorts ended, they went back to his child-friendly and marketable personality. It was definitely a weird change, but some of the badass and goofy cartoons are definitely worth checking out. Famous books, the Mr. Men, have gone through a few changes over the years, with new characters, new stories, and a few TV shows based on them. One huge change was when the Americans took over and made the Mr. Men show, giving the characters new designs and new voices. Some looking similar to their original designs, and others being a huge departure from the books. Famous Batman villain the Joker has even gone through various changes too, having different actors portray him, including Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, Mark Hamill, and most recently Jared Leto. And one of the hugest changes to the character is usually his appearances. And in The Dark Knight, when Heath Ledger played the Joker, you have no idea what his backstory is. They leave out the whole falling in a vat of acid and having his skin bleached white thing, which adds to a lot of mystery to the character, which makes him one of the most popular versions of the Clown Prince of Crime. Even in the animated series from the 90s, he's had a few redesigns and changes to his appearance, despite being voiced by Mark Hamill. In the first 3 seasons, he was a bright, loud, colourful clown with the red lips and black eyes that you know him for. Then in the 4th season, they sucked out all the colour from his face and gave him black expressionless eyes for some reason that made him look like a cartoon character from the 1920s. But Warner Brothers eventually learned their lesson and went back to a design that was more like the original when they did the spin-off movie Return of the Joker. That was definitely a welcomed return. One cartoon character that has gone through the most changes over the years is Daffy Duck. Starting off as a crazy, jumping up and down, wild kind of character, to a jealous jerk who wants to take the fame and glory from other characters, to kind of a mixture of the two versions of Daffy, back to the crazy self in the most recent Looney Tunes show. While many cartoon characters like Daffy Duck and Mickey Mouse and so on and so forth had to go through change due to the ever-changing world, they're not all against those changes as long as they stay true to the characters they've always been. There's even been various changes in voice actors for certain characters. One of the most notable ones is the man of 1,000 voices himself, Mel Blanc, who used to voice the Looney Tunes. But after he passed away in the late 80s, many other actors have been trying out their voices for the Looney Tunes. While they weren't exactly as great as Mel Blanc was at capturing the voices of the characters, they're still pretty decent and worth a watch. Especially when it comes to movies and existing TV shows. The one huge change we had to go through for it was whenever they did a reboot or remake of a certain thing. Scooby-Doo has had, I don't know how many shows now, but each one is quite different from the last, apart from the storyline, which is a man in a mask. While new Scooby-Doo shows like Mystery Incorporated were really great with a great storyline and dark story, others like Be Cool Scooby-Doo were, well, complete shit. But that just shows you how the Scooby-Doo franchise has varied over the years, with some good shows and some bad shows. 2 of the most recent reboots were the Powerpuff Girls. The original show was one of the greatest shows that Cartoon Network had to offer, while the reboot was, well, pretty bad. The girls had huge changes in their personalities, and the only one who I'm assuming stays the same is Mojo Jojo, an evil genius with a bit of a wacky side to him. But besides from that, the reboot is pretty crap. The DuckTales reboot, on the other hand, is fantastic. The original show from the 1980s was a cult classic and one of Disney's best, but the reboot really shows that the people who worked on it loved the original and want to show all that love, time and effort into the show. And surprisingly, the show was renewed for a 2nd season before the 1st season even aired. That just shows you how dedicated Disney and the people working on the reboot is to this reboot. While Scooby-Doo's gone through various reboots in its time, DuckTales is one of the few reboots I've seen that actually stays true to the original characters, and it shows that the people who worked on it love the original work. And that's how a good reboot should be done. Power Rangers has been going on for many years since 1993, coming up to its 25th season this year. While the story of the show remains the same, with like 6 teenagers fighting the evil aliens who use one monster at a time instead of making an army of them, it's had its way of continuing by changing the new characters and writing some new stories that fits in with the stock footage from Japan. It's even gotten a few big screen movies, with the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie and the most recent Power Rangers reboot movie. So changes to shows and movies can be a bit of a mixed bag with some people, but I think we can all identify with the differences between good changes and bad changes. The good changes are usually in those shows and movies where it's made by people who actually respect the original work and want to show that respect and love into their product, while the bad changes come from those people who have no respect for the original work and most likely have never seen the original work and just want to make money out of it because they've heard how it was so popular back in the day.
We've got to have money.
And while some people are accepting of these changes and just accept the fact that this was made for a new generation, other people who were huge fans of the shows back then just go apeshit about it and talk about it on the internet, saying how it ruined their childhoods. And I'm one of those people who's willing to accept and give change a chance as long as it's done by people who respect the original works and their creators. Whether you like change or not, they're all going to happen to a well-known franchise we've all come to know and love over the years. But if the change is done for the benefit of the viewing audience, and it's done by people who love the original works, then I see no problem with it. Change could come in many forms when it comes to movies and TV shows, including writing, voice acting, directions, and just everything else that comes with it. But whatever the changes are, we all have to make our own decisions, whether it's as good as the original, somewhere in the middle, or complete shit. But like I said, that really depends on how we feel about these changes and how much they respect the original product. And I've got a feeling that these changes to movies and TV franchises won't go away anytime soon. But if we're willing to give them a chance and come to our own decisions whether they're good or bad changes, then I'm sure that more changes for the good will come up in the future. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks. Oh, I love this new room. Hey guys, Dalek44 here, I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. And welcome to a new installment of The Villain Files. Most people see penguins as cute, cuddly, friendly little animals that would do nobody any harm whatsoever. But that's far from the truth. Some penguins are sinister, evil, and master criminals. And no penguin is badder than Feathers McGraw. Feathers McGraw is a silent, yet sinister penguin. He is a notorious criminal mastermind and bird of many faces. Long thought to be a chicken with the help of his rubber glove disguise. Similar to Gromit, McGraw does not express himself with spoken words, but his facial expressions and body language speak volumes. He first arrives as a guest at Wallace and Gromit's house, having been attracted by the room for rent sign. He was given the spare room by Wallace, but did not like the old run-down looks of it. He instead took over Gromit's room, much to the latter's objections. Since Gromit had to sleep in the older guest room, he took an interest in the techno trousers, which he thought would be useful to him. That night, loud music of his radio annoyed Gromit to keep him up, but the penguin did not turn off the radio until late at night. The next morning, he puts Wallace's slippers on his feet and took the morning paper to Wallace before Gromit, winning the latter's favour and causing Wallace to pay more attention to him rather than Gromit. Bitter and rejected, Gromit left home. A happy Feathers reveals that this was just part of his plan to get Gromit out of the way and modify the trousers for his own purposes. The next morning, Wallace found his normal morning pants replaced by the Technet trousers, having been modified by Feathers. Wallace is marched around town on a test run, controlled by Feathers, until he is tired out, with Gromit as a witness. Meanwhile, Gromit notices a wanted poster saying, "Have you seen this chicken?" which depicts a penguin similar to Feathers disguised as a chicken wanted for his many crimes. Gromit grows suspicious and follows Feathers to the museum, where the penguin is seen measuring up the museum using measuring tape. When Feathers uses the tape to get back to the ground, he almost catches Gromit disguised as a boss, but moves on. Gromit later discovers Feathers' plan to rob a diamond from the museum, but was too late to foil it. Feathers used Wallace, sleeping in the trousers, to carry out his plan. He marches Wallace to the museum, uses the suction feet to climb it, and steps off at a window. Wallace is marched to the top, enters through a roof air vent, and marches along the ceiling through many exhibits to the diamond room, with Feathers studying through blueprints. As Wallace was positioned above the diamond, Feathers is forced to modify the position several times before the position is just right. Much like a crane game you'd see in a funhouse. As the claw hooks the diamond, it slips until the penguin catches it with the remote control. He then moved it up into the helmet. But as they try to escape, the tiles come loose on Wallace's one off to the side, and the claw activated the alarm. After escaping, Feathers marched Wallace back to West Wallaby Street and revealed his identity. When Wallace ordered Feathers to release him, he trapped Wallace in a wardrobe and prepared to flee with the diamond. But before he could leave, Gromit confronted Feathers with a rolling pin, but the penguin simply responded by pulling out a pistol. That's still hilarious. He forced Gromit into the wardrobe with Wallace and locked the door, but Gromit managed to rewire the trousers to stop their way out. Feathers tried to escape onto the toy train set. He fired bullets at Gromit and Wallace, but missed. He shot off a dog door and tried to escape out it, but Gromit prevented this from happening. After Wallace collected his pistol, they both tried catching the penguin with nets in their hands, but failed. Wallace freed himself from the trousers as the penguin switched the train back. Just as it seemed he could escape, Wallace collected the engine while Feathers' car was stopped by the Technet trousers. He flew through the air and landed in a bottle. He was captured and sent to a zoo, where he was to stay for the rest of his life. While Feathers was arrested at the end of the Von Trousers, that didn't stop him from getting a few mentions and nods in future shorts. When Gromit is wrongly imprisoned in the close shave, graffiti on the cell wall reads Feathers was here, indicating that this was the cell that Feathers was in the Von Trousers, and that he most likely escaped. The penguin's lifestyle of crime is referenced on the television program When Penguins Turn, shown in the Cracky Contraption short episode The Telescope. The latest short film, A Matter of Life and Death, indicated that Feathers escaped again by a new wanted poster and a ladder coming from the penguin habitat, indicating that he escaped. And it wasn't just the Wallace and Gromit shorts that Feathers got references and mentions in. He also got references and mentions and even appearances in other forms of media. Feathers also appears in the Wallace and Gromit video game Project Zoo as the main villain, in which the imprisoned penguin attempts to take over the zoo in order to create a diamond mine. He captures baby animals in order to force their parents to do his bidding. He uses remote controls to control many of his inventions, including his boiler, helicopter, toy penguins, and mining machine. In the final level, Feathers uses an invention called the exoskeleton, which fires missiles and wields buzzsaws. In the game's conclusion, Feathers is defeated, yet he still tries to make one last escape. However, when he exits from his hideout to leave the zoo, the other animals catch him and take him back to his cell. He also appeared in a couple of episodes of the acclaimed show Reboot, where he's seen wandering around the streets of Mainframe, unnamed and unspoken to. Feathers was so popular and iconic in Wallace and Gromit that he got to be in Gromit Unleashed 2 this year. In this year's Gromit Trail, which has many statues of Wallace and Gromit around the city of Bristol, Feathers is also part of that. So around the city you can see various statues of Wallace, Gromit and Feathers McGraw as their original selves, and as many various designs from various artists. Feathers McGraw is definitely one of the most iconic characters in Wallace and Gromit's history, and I really hope they bring him back in a future short in the future. Since his debut in the Von Trousers, Feathers McGraw has become one of the most iconic figures in Wallace and Gromit's history, and I really look forward to seeing him in future Wallace and Gromit projects if Nick Park ever considers bringing him back. So as memorable as all the other villains are, including Preston, Victor Quatermain and Pia LaBakewell, Feathers McGraw will always be my #1 Wallace and Gromit villain, as well as one of my top villains of all time, which made him worthy for this installment of the Villain Files. And that's everything you need to know about Feathers McGraw in the Villain Files. Stay tuned for more Villain Files soon in the future. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks. I love this t-shirt. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. We all know about secret agents, don't we? Secret agents have become one of the most popular things to show on TV, on the big screen, and even video games. And many franchises, including James Bond and The Kingsman, have done this on the big screen. Even Stromberg from Homestar Runner has done it with his Danger-esque films and video games. While James Bond gets popular with his endless amount of movies, there's one secret agent that a lot of people forget about. And that is Johnny English.
Queen of country, safe and sound, with villains 6 feet underground, and no one knows, cause no one's found any trace of a man for all seasons. Walks him and leaves him alone, so alone.
Johnny English is a 2003 British spy comedy film parodying the James Bond secret agent gene, infused with comedy style to Rowan Atkinson's Mr. Bean character. And with the third installment of the franchise on the way, how does the first installment of the franchise hold up today? Well, let's have a look. The film centres around a kind-hearted but inept MI7 agent, Johnny English, played by Rowan Atkinson, who has dreams of being their most trusted employee. After Agent 1 dies in a submarine accident unknowingly caused by English, the remaining agents go to his funeral and all die in an explosion. And English is assigned to follow a plot to steal the crown jewels, which are on display at the Tower of London. At the display, English is head of security and meets the mysterious Lorna Campbell. The power is cut and the jewels are stolen. During the chaos, English accidentally knocks out the deputy head of security and pretends to fight an assailant out of sight. He later makes up a false description of the assailant to MI7 head Pegasus. English and his assistant, Angus Bob, played by Ben Miller, find the jewels were removed via a hole dug beneath the display case. The two follow a tunnel, confronting two thieves, Dieter Klein and Klaus Vendetta. The two escape in a hearse, with English trying to pursue them, but he mistakes another hearse for the escape vehicle, gate crashing the funeral until Bob comes to his aid, pretending English is an escaped mental patient. English connects the thieves to the sponsor of the jewel's resurrection, Pascal Sauvage, played by John Malkovich, a Frenchman who owns many prisons. Pegasus finds the claims of his involvement absurd and warns English not to involve Sauvage. In the car park, English and Bob are attacked by Vendetta, but are unharmed. Disobeying Pegasus's orders, Johnny goes on a mission with his sidekick Bob, and the help of the mysterious Lorna, to find out what Pascal Sauvage's plans are, and to expose his plans to MI7, Pegasus, and the rest of England. So is the first Johnny English movie still as funny as I remember it? Yes. Yes, it is. Very funny. The film is your basic secret agent and spy film, but with a hint of comedy in it provided by the great Rowan Atkinson. Most people wouldn't expect a movie about spies and secret agents to be a comedy, but this movie changed all that, making a spy comedy. A very interesting thing I found out about this movie is the fact that it was based on a series of commercials Rowan Atkinson did for the Barclaycard Company.
Fresh Barclaycard, sir.
His Barclaycard? This man's in no state to go shopping.
No, I'm going to phone him up for medical advice, sir. You're going to phone Barclaycard for medical advice?
Barclaycard International Rescue, sir. They can send doctors
Look,
and...
we're wasting time here, Bob. This man has a serious case of snakebite, and there's only one thing that's going to save him. I'm going to have to locate the wound and suck out the poison.
Then years later, he took the Adverts and decided to make him into a maxi movie with the help of the directors and writers.
I actually better phone Barclaycard, Bob. I'm not sure I've got there.
But you can't have a spy comedy movie without a series of great characters to hold the story up. And this movie doesn't disappoint. There's Johnny English, played by Rowan Atkinson, who was a kind-hearted but inept and dim-witted secret agent who was first in charge of the car park for MI7, but then later became a secret agent when all the other agents died in an explosion at Agent 1's funeral. English can be quite tense in situations, but also very overconfident in what he's doing. Even though he means really well for the agency, he does end up cocking everything he does up. But he manages to get his man in the end. And Rowan plays the character really well. Before this movie was released, Rowan's made himself famous for playing a number of hilarious and memorable characters, including Mr. Bean, Blackadder, Inspector Fowler from the Thin Blue Line, and Zazu from The Lion King, to name a few. And among all of those, Johnny English is another one of his finest performances and characters. I kind of see this character as a mixture of Blackadder's charm and Mr. Bean's dim-wittedness. A great combination of the two, as well as Rowan getting to show off some of his physical performance, as he does. Rowan Atkinson is best known for those various roles that I pointed out before, and he's also well known for physical performance and slapstick comedy. And this movie gets him the chance to show off all of those things. There's his partner, Angus Bob, played by Ben Miller, the sensible man in the team who loves some gadgets and whatnot. What I love about this character is that when Johnny gets into trouble, Bob always finds a way to help him out of the trouble. Like when he gatecrashes a funeral and then Bob pretends that he's a doctor from the Lunatic Response Unit and that English is a patient named Gunter. Bob is the perfect sidekick to be alongside Johnny English because he's the sensible one and the one with more common sense than Johnny. And we all know this thing where the sidekicks are smarter than the actual leaders, and we've seen that before. But the chemistry between Rowan Atkinson and Ben Miller works really well in this movie. Even though Bob is clearly more intelligent than Johnny is, he'll always stick by his side no matter what. Laura Campbell is an Interpol agent who was sent to find out Pascal Savage's wicked plots. But before we find out what exactly she's up to, there's a little bit of suspicion surrounding her. Even Johnny thinks that she might have been involved with the stealing of the jewels, until we find out that she was really working for Interpol the whole time. And even though she sees Johnny for the dimwit that he is, she also sees beyond it, and she sees a man who's willing to do whatever it takes to protect his country. And the two end up sharing a romance with each other. Other characters include Pegasus, played by Tim Bidget-Smith, the leader of MI7, who will stand no nonsense with anything, even English's antics. He can be very strict when it comes to MI7 protocols, and of course doesn't believe English's suspicions of Savage being behind the stealing of the crown jewels. Dieter Klein and Klaus Vendetta are your basic evil henchmen that get away from Johnny English whenever he's on pursuit with them. And they're great henchmen for the main villain in my opinion. And of course we have Pascal Edward Savage, played by John Malkovich, the main antagonist of the movie. Savage is a French businessman who owns many prisons and has built loads of them in England as well. And he stole the crown jewels because he was a distant descendant of James II and wanted to claim his rightful place as King of England after it was stolen from his family centuries ago.
You know, I think I'd rather have my bottom impaled on a giant cactus than exchange pleasantries with that jumped-up Frenchman. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing the French should be allowed to host is an invasion.
And John Malkovich does a fantastic job of bringing this deranged Frenchman to life, bringing off the charming side of the character, as well as the evil side of him, and the insane side of him too. John Malkovich has made a reputation for himself playing nutty characters like in the Red films, and his role in Johnny English is no exception. This was the first time I ever saw Malkovich as a character in a movie, and I find this a great introduction to the actor if you've never seen him before.
Shall I try it on? Yes? No? Maybe?
Even though this movie is a comedy, it doesn't waste time in telling a good story, and this is a really good story mixed in with comedy. One of my favourite moments is when Johnny gatecrashes a funeral thinking that it's the criminals who stole the crown jewels, and I especially love this line from him.
Oh, look. Real tears. Do you get paid extra for that?
How can you not crack up at that every time you hear it? Another memorable moment is when he lands on the hospital, confusing it to be Savage's office. And also another great line is this.
My God, what have they done to you?
They've taken some of my blood.
Bastards.
I think that's what pretty much everyone has ever said about doctors who take their bloods for blood tests. Another hilarious moment is when Johnny gives a false description of the assailants that he made up during the night at the Tower of London when the jewels were stolen. And it has a hilarious payoff at the end, which I won't dare give away. And the one scene that had me on the floor the most the first time I went to see this in the cinema was when he blew up a speed camera. That is just something that I think everybody on the roads wish they could do. Another great running gag throughout the film is Johnny's gun going wrong a number of occasions, like being assembled with missing parts, or some parts falling off while he's trying to use it. And who the hell could ever forget this side-splitting quote?
Look, pull yourself together, it's only a bit of poo.
I love that line. And there was just so many other hilarious moments in this movie that I could go on talking about them all day. But I think you'd honestly be better off to see them for yourself. You'll get loads of laughs out of it. Even though the movie had mixed reviews when it was released, it did get a lot of good sales in the VHS and DVD market. Not to mention the fact that it was so popular that it ended up getting a sequel in 2011. And is soon to get another sequel in October 2018. That just shows how popular Johnny English really is. So even to this day, Johnny English still holds up as a great spy comedy. And its sequel holds up as a great sequel to the spy comedy. And we can only wait and see what the third installment will be like. In my mind, Johnny English is one of the funniest spy comedies I've ever seen, and one of Rowan Atkinson's best. It has a lot of great action scenes that you'd expect from spy films, and it's got a lot of comedy as you'd expect in a Rowan Atkinson film. And if you haven't seen this masterpiece of comedy yet, I'd highly recommend checking it out if you're into secret agents and spies and comedy. And Rowan Atkinson, of course. If you haven't seen this movie yet, go check it out. You won't be disappointed with the comedy that Rowan Atkinson provides as Johnny English. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.
And you and I wouldn't have a clue who's doing what, why, when, and who. Up a creek with no canoe. Watch out for the man for all seasons. Love someone, leave someone alone. So long, but safe at home. Queen of country, safe and sound, but villain 6 feet underground.
Look, pull yourself together, it's only a bit of poo.
It's nice to have a haircut once in a while. My hair is gorgeous now. What? Ow. I remember this thing. Totally worth playing. We all know Mario Kart is the best kart racing video game series of all time, right?
Well, obviously.
Well, there's another video game title that almost tops it, and that's Diddy Kong Racing, released in 1997. So is this game as good as I remember it from the 90s? Well, let's find out. Compared to Mario Kart, where the characters decide to just have a kart race just because, This one has an actual story to it. This was made back in the days when they didn't make opening cutscenes that explained the story and they just relied on you reading the instruction manual to know the story. That is, if you could be bothered to get out the instruction manual, of course. But the story is basically that Timber the Tiger's parents go away on holiday and leave him in charge of the island. Then an evil space pig named Whizpig comes, takes over the island, and it's up to you to challenge him to win a race to defeat him. But after Drumstick, the best racer on the island, gets turned into a frog after losing, Timber calls on Diddy to help him out. And the whole game is basically going through a lot of races, racing a lot of bosses, until you finally get to challenge Whizpig. Yeah, that's basically the story in a nutshell.
But what do I have to say for Diddy Kong Racing now that I'm over 20? Why the hell hasn't Nintendo made a sequel to this yet?
This is one of the only racing video games that comes close to topping Mario Kart. With its colourful characters, interesting racing tracks, and fun story.
This video game is on the same level of memorability as Mario Kart. And that's saying a lot.
The game has many characters that you can play as and play against. There's Donkey Kong's main little buddy, Diddy Kong, Tip-Top the Turtle, Timber the Tiger, Pipsy the Mouse, Bumper the Badger, Crunch the Kremlin, Banjo the Bear, and Conker the Squirrel. Banjo and Conker would eventually become popular in their own video games, Conker's Bad Fur Day and Banjo-Kazooie. There are also two unlockable characters in the game, Drumstick the Rooster and Titi the Talking Stopwatch. He starts out in the game as the guy who you can talk to in every hub world to check out your game status. Like seeing how many keys you've collected, how many trophies you've won, how many pieces of amulet you've won, and so on and so forth. And you can also unlock him as a playable character by completing all the time trial courses and beating all his time. And believe me, that is hell to do. Every time I play this game, I would always find myself playing with Tip-Top the Turtle, because he was my favourite character, because of those funny noises he would make every time he crashed, which was shown off in the introduction of the game. I love that noise. The game has 5 hub worlds where you can race on 4 different tracks and take a battle and trophy race and race a boss. There's Dino Domain, which speaks for itself, Snowflake Mountain, one of my personal favourites around Christmas time, Sherbet Island, which is around the beaches, Dragon Forest, which also speaks for itself, and Future Funland, which is unlockable after beating Whizpig in the first race. Each hub world has a boss of their own. Dino Domain has Tricky the Triceratops, Snowflake Mountain has Bluey the Walrus, Sherbet Island has Bubbler the Octopus, Smokey the Dragon is the boss of Dragon Forest, and Whizpig is the main antagonist of the game, the one who brainwashed all the island's guardians into working for him. And similar to Mario 64, where you defeat Bowser 3 times in the game, in this game you gotta race Whizpig twice. One race has him on foot, and then the last race has him riding a rocket. And each hub world, with the exception of Future Funland, also has a key that unlocks the challenge levels. And these keys are scattered all over the place in various courses. But the upside is that once you've collected a key, you don't necessarily have to win a race to keep the key. In fact, when I was a kid, I always used to collect the key and then exit the course, and you'd still keep the key. Each hub world has their own challenges. Dino Domain with Fire Mountain, where you steal eggs from other people and put it in your own nests. Snowflake Mountain's Icicle Pyramid, which is a shootout. Sherbet Island's Saltwater Beach, another shootout. And Dragon Forest's Smoky Castle, where you collect bananas and try to collect more bananas than everyone else. In order to race your opponents and the bosses and Whizpig, you have 3 vehicles at your disposal. There's the car, which can drift and can often be a pain in the ass when you're driving it. The hovercraft, which I always found a pain in the ass to control, especially when turning. And the plane, which I find the most easy to control when you're holding the R button, as it helps you go around corners more. And this wouldn't be a fun racing game like the Mario Kart series if it didn't have its weapons. And each weapon comes in the form of a balloon. The red balloons gives you missiles, the blue balloons gives you a speed boost, the green balloons give you a trap to set for the other racers, the yellow balloons gives you a force field that protects you from other weapons, and the rainbow balloon gives you a magnet to attract yourself to the player in front of you. If you collect 3 of the same coloured balloons in a row, then they'll upgrade your weapons. 2 balloons gives you a super weapon, And 3 balloons of the same colour gives you an ultimate weapon. So it can be a pain in the ass if you're trying to collect ultimate weapons just to drive into a different coloured balloon to get another weapon. Come in first place in each race will reward you with a golden balloon which helps you unlock other hub worlds and other races. So it's much like how it works in Super Mario 64 where you have to collect a certain amount of stars to open a certain door. There's bananas scattered on every course. By collecting them, the player is able to increase the top speed of his vehicle until the banana counter reaches 10. After that, bananas do nothing to affect the vehicle even further. And if a player gets hit by a weapon, then they'll lose bananas. Scattered throughout the courses, there's also zippers, which increases your speed for a little while and gives you a boost. And the adventure mode had a pretty simple objective in each race course. Win a race, grab a balloon in each domain, race the boss once, then once you beat him, you'll try the silver coin challenge, where you go back on every course and try and collect every silver coin and come in first place. Now the silver coin challenge can be a pain in the ass at times because the coins are scattered all over the tracks. And I wouldn't mind so much if you didn't necessarily have to win a race to pass this course, or at least if the coins were a little easier to find and didn't push you off course every freaking time. But getting you to find each coin when they're scattered around the tracks and come in first place is kind of asking much. Anyway, once you defeat the silver coin challenge, you'll beat the boss in the second race, win a piece of the Whizpick amulet, which gets you further to race in Whizpick for the first time, and you're going to try out the trophy challenge, where you race all 4 courses in each domain and win a trophy, which also helps you advance further in the game. And while you're on the island, you also get the help of Taj the Genie Elephant, who provides you with the free vehicles, gives you advice on how to become a better driver in the races, and even challenges you to race in each vehicle to win an extra balloon to help you advance further in the game.
Yeah, the plot is kind of odd when you look back at it years later, but it's still a fun game. And it's nice to have a karting game that has a plot to it compared to Mario Kart where they just get together and have kart races just because.
The controls in the game is your basic accelerate, brake, and slide in your kart, hovercraft, or airplane, pretty much similar to the controls of Mario Kart 64. Except the vehicles drift a lot, and it can be a pain in the ass to manoeuvre around tight corners, especially in the car. But if you know how to use the drifting mechanics to your advantage, then you can get around those tight corners pretty easily. And as I mentioned before, I like to hold the R button down when I'm riding the plane because that helps you turn corners easier. So basically, once you know how to get around corners in the airplane's the easiest one to control. And the levels are so bright and colourful that it just draws you even closer to the game. Like those wonderful sandy beaches in Sherbet Island, the wonderful snowy valleys and villages of Snowflake Mountain, and the futuristic funness of Future Funland. And the music just adds to the charm of the levels too.
The music in the game suits every track and every cutscene so well, as Nintendo know how.
2 of my personal favourite tracks being Haunted Woods, because I love driving through those tunnels where you see all the Whizpick ghosts. And Dark Moon Caverns is another favourite because of how bright and colourful it is, and the music in it just kicks ass. And one thing that pisses people off about this game is the ending of the game. Not because it was such a bad ending, it's because it had a cliffhanger. After you defeat Whizpig, you claim back the island and have a party. Then before the credits roll, Whizpig's spaceship flies over the skies and you hear Whizpig's evil laugh in the background. So this hinted that there was going to be a Diddy Kong Racing 2, but sadly it never happened. I mean, we were going to get Diddy Kong Pilot, which got cancelled and replaced by Banjo Pilot, and there was also the Donkey Kong Racing for the Nintendo GameCube, but that was cancelled due to Rare's move to Microsoft in 2002.
Idiot.
But years later we got a remake in Diddy Kong Racing DS, which was okay, but it honestly wasn't as good as the original. Diddy Kong Racing was a huge deal at the time it was released. In fact, I think I remember getting it for Christmas in 1997. So as you can imagine, I used to play this a lot during Christmas time, especially the snow races in Snowflake Mountain. And while I've completed the game, I've had a go at Adventure 2, but haven't completed it yet, and I've even erased a file just to do Adventure 1 again. So after years of going through this game to complete it at last, I've gone through it a few other times and haven't completed it again yet. But it's still really fun to try.
Diddy Kong Racing is definitely one of Nintendo's best games on the N64, and it still makes me wonder why they haven't made a sequel to it yet.
Diddy Kong Racing is one of those few racing games that nearly tops Mario Kart in popularity. And as I said, it's a damn shame that it never got any sequels. So if Nintendo want to try a new game besides Mario Kart or Donkey Kong games, then I suggest getting back the Diddy Kong Racing franchise. And perhaps add in some more Donkey Kong characters, since Banjo and Conker are owned by Rareware and are no longer with Nintendo. Or perhaps it would be best to just leave Good Enough alone, since Diddy Kong Racing was pretty awesome as it was. But whether your thoughts on it getting a sequel will work or not, Diddy Kong Racing is definitely one of the best kart racing games of the 90s. And it's definitely worth replaying if you love Diddy Kong Racing, racing games, and the Nintendo 64.
I'm Dalek44. Now if you'll excuse me, I got to kick Whizpig's ass. Yeah, come on. Ah. Come on, Porky. You'll go down. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, it's someone's birthday today. Whose birthday, you may ask? Well, it's the birthday of a very popular mouse, of an icon of a... Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, it's a very special mouse's birthday today. And I'm talking, of course, about that mouse who is a popular American icon, and the mouse who made the Disney name what it is today, Mickey Mouse. That's right, America's most famous mouse has reached its 90th birthday. That wonderful mouse who's been entertaining children and adults all around the world since 1928, with his famous cartoons, theatrical films, and various appearances and references in other forms of media. But which of his cartoons are the best? Which ones are the funniest, the most influential, and all around just most entertaining to watch? Well, seeing as it's our favourite mouse's birthday, we're going to look at the top 10 of them here tonight. Cartoons from shows like Disney's House of Mouse and the most recent Mickey Mouse cartoon won't be included on this list, as they deserve a list of their own. This list is just going to focus on theatrical shorts and a couple of shorts from Mickey Mouse works, since those were short films. And they filmed the most like the classic Mickey Mouse cartoons in my opinion. So with that said, sit back and enjoy my top 10 Mickey Mouse cartoons. Number 10. The Nifty Nighties from 1941. Set in the springtime sometime in the 1890s, Mickey and Minnie Mouse happen to meet each other in a public park one day. Mickey attracts Mickey by intentionally dropping her handkerchief so Mickey will return it to her. They attend a show where they first see a slideshow presentation called Father Dear Father, followed by Fred and Ward, two clever boys from Illinois. After the show is over, Mickey and Minnie cruise the roads into the countryside in a brass-era car. This cartoon is a perfect representation of what life would have been like in the 1890s as far as I know. With people taking strolls in the park, going to see shows in the theatre, and riding around on cars and bikes. We also get to see cameos from Donald Duck, Huey, Dewey, Louie and Daisy, as well as Goofy in the cartoon, as well as the accompaniment of the song Strolling by the Park One Day, which has been heard in many other cartoons including Tom and Jerry. But one of my most favourite moments in this cartoon is Fred and Ward's show, where it's basically them just prancing about and telling bad jokes.
Say, Fred, why does a chicken cross the road? I don't know, Ward. Why does a chicken cross the road? To get to the other side.
And
I don't know why, but for some reason the bit with Ward and Fred always cracks me up every time I watch this cartoon. They're just really funny guys.
Bright, colourful and full of 1890s stuff, The Nifty 90s is one of Mickey's finest cartoons ever made in the 1940s.
Hey, Brown Eye! Who was that lady I saw you with last night? That was no lady. That was my wife.
Number 9. Mr. Mouse Takes a Trip from 1940. Leaving for vacation, Mickey Mouse and Pluto arrive at a train station in Burbank, California. They board a westbound train, but are both immediately kicked off by the conductor, played by Pete, since dogs aren't allowed. Mickey at this point decides to smuggle Pluto on board the train by squeezing him into his suitcase. But as soon as Pete finds out the truth that Mickey snuck Pluto on board the train, the four have a chase on board the train, going through many antics until Mickey and Pluto reach their final destination. I've always loved the Mickey Mouse cartoons where Pete is the main antagonist, since he's always fun to watch. Whether he has a decent job or is a criminal or whatever, you can tell that he's always going to be funny in whatever cartoon he's in. And I absolutely love the way he lures Pluto out of the suitcase.
You know, I used to have a little cat once, and when it was left all alone, it'd cry.
Pete meowing like a cat is quite ironic, since technically he is a cat.
And just all the clever things Mickey and Pluto go through just to lead Pete off their trail is just so entertaining to watch. And another reason I love this cartoon is probably to do with my love of trains.
Well, obviously.
So whether you like train rides or not, Mr. Mouse Takes a Trip is one of the finest Mickey Mouse cartoons ever made, and I still look forward to watching it every time it's on.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. You won't be disturbed again.
Number 8. Mickey's Airplane Kit from 1999. Mickey orders a do-it-yourself airplane kit as a special surprise for a date with Minnie Mouse. Rushed for time, he ignores the instructions and pays a bitter price when the plane falls apart during their date. This was made during the height of Mickey Mouse Works, and some might say that it's a remake of Plane Crazy from 1928. And in some cases they are right, since it is very similar to Plane Crazy, with Mickey building an airplane, taking Minnie up on the plane ride, and things going wrong while on the flight. It's the kind of scenario where someone gets an airplane kit or whatever type of kit and just ignores the instructions completely and leaves them into trouble. For some reason those kind of things always seem funny to me.
Well, I'm sure you followed the instructions this time. Not like that boat you did.
A great remake to a great cartoon from his starter days, Mickey's Airplane Kit is one of the funniest cartoons from Mickey Mouse Works, and I always look forward to putting it on.
That wasn't so bad. And I didn't even have to use all the parts.
Number 7. Runaway Brain from 1995. On a dark and stormy night, Minnie visits Mickey while he's playing the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs video game and is angry to find that he's forgotten the anniversary of their first date due to his addiction to the game. Mickey comes up with a last-minute idea to take her to a miniature golf course and shows her a newspaper ad for it. But she instead notices another ad for a trip to Hawaii, which costs $1,000, and mistakes it for Mickey's gift. Desperate to make the cash, Mickey applies to a newspaper ad from a mad scientist named Dr. Frankenolly, played by Kelsey Grammer, for a day of mindless work, which would pay $1,000. The Mad Doctor reveals a plan to switch Mickey's brain with that of a 30-foot tall creature named Julius, played by Pete.
Coincidence? I think not!
The experiment causes an explosion that kills Frankenolly, but the brain transfer is successful, with Mickey's mind ending up in Julius's giant body and Julius in control of Mickey's body. The dim-witted and insane Julius finds Mickey's wallet and notices a picture of Minnie, whom he instantly becomes smitten with.
Of course!
You could say that this cartoon is a remake of The Mad Doctor, since it involves a mad scientist and science experiments. Except this one's a lot less darker than The Mad Doctor was, but it can be quite frightening at times, especially with the opening titles and seeing Mickey look like a monster with Julius's brain in his head. And the first time I saw this short cartoon was years ago when I went to see a Goofy movie at the cinemas, since this played before it, and it's been one that's ingrained in my mind for many years to come.
Having Sideshow Bob himself voice a villain in a Mickey Mouse cartoon is an instant win. I mean, the guy's voice just kicks major ass.
Oh, don't be shy. It's not just a job. It's an adventure.
I hate adventure.
Perfect. You're hired.
and I think it's also the first time we've seen Minnie Mouse in a rather skimpy looking swimsuit.
And it's not very often that you see Minnie Mouse in a bikini like that in cartoons. I wonder why. Oh yeah, right. Fanfiction and the furries.
Full of mad doctors, crazy wacky experiments, and a giant monster played by Pete, Runaway Brain is one of the most entertaining and quite frightening at times Mickey Mouse cartoons ever made.
Happy anniversary, Minnie.
You're so romantic.
Number 6. Lonesome Ghosts from 1937. The Ajax Ghost Exterminators, Mickey, Donald and Goofy, are hired by telephone to drive out 4 ghosts from a haunted mansion that has long been abandoned. Unbeknownst to them, they were hired by the ghosts themselves, who are bored because nobody has visited the house since they have been haunting it for a long time, either because none of the locals were scared or they had scared them all away, as one of the ghosts puts it. And they toy with the exterminators at every turn. This is one of those fun cartoons that you could watch on Halloween or any time of the year and get really entertained by. In fact, the first time I saw this was in the movie Mickey's House of Villains, and I just loved the antics the ghosts get up to playing tricks on Mickey, Donald and Goofy. And is it just me, or was this the original Ghostbusters inspiration?
Rewatching this cartoon, it almost seems like these 3 were the original Ghostbusters. In fact, Goofy says the line similar to how they would a few years later on.
I ain't scared of no ghosts.
If that's not proof that this cartoon was the inspiration for Ghostbusters, I don't know what the hell is.
Whether this is the original inspiration for the Ghostbusters movies or not, The Lonesome Ghost is one of the most entertaining and chilling cartoons of the Mickey Mouse era, and is a great watch.
I ain't scared of no ghosts.
Number 5. Building a Building from 1933. Mickey is operating a steam shovel at a construction site. Minnie appears on a cart pulled by Pluto. She is selling box lunches for workers for 15 cents. After Mickey causes mishaps for his foreman Pete, Pete has had enough and starts strangling Mickey until the horn goes off for lunch. Mickey settles down to eat a fish sandwich, but has it stolen by Pete. What a bastard! Minnie offers to give him a box lunch for free, with
A loaf, a macaroni, and a hot strawberry pie.
and corn on the cob. As Mickey is eating the lunch, Peter ducks Minnie from above with a crane. And of course Mickey has to save her butt from Pete. This was one of the first black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons I'd ever seen, thanks to YouTube. And it's definitely one of the funniest black and white cartoons of Mickey Mouse I'd ever seen, with the various antics that Mickey goes through after being yoo-hooed and eyed by Minnie while causing mishaps for Pete. And I especially love Pete's reaction to Mickey when he ruins his blueprints with bricks.
Whoa, watch your language there, Pete. Next we're going to be going into fiddle-dee-dee territory.
And it's another one of those cartoons where I can't get enough of the sweet moments between Mickey and Minnie, especially when she watches him eat a corn on the cob. That's just really adorable. A fun cartoon about building buildings and loved ones and rescues and escapes. Building a Building is one of the funniest black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 1930s, and I always look forward to watching it whenever I have the urge to watch a building cartoon. Number 4. The Nutcracker from 1999. When Maria, played by Minnie, is captured by the Mouse King, played by Donald, her beloved Nutcracker doll turns into a handsome Prince Mickey and rescues her from becoming the Mouse Queen. This familiar story is told by a comical narrator played by John Cleese. The first time I ever saw this cartoon was in the direct-to-DVD film Mickey's Magical Christmas Snowed In at the House of Mouse. And as I've mentioned in the review, this is one of the funniest cartoons I've seen from House of Mouse and Mickey Mouse Works.
I mean, like I said, having John Cleese as the narrator is an instant win. Especially when he has his little arguments with Professor Von Drake.
Excuse me, I'm trying to narrate.
Well, you said you wanted someone to describe all of this stuff here.
That was a rhetorical question. Pretend like I'm not here.
How do you expect me to ignore a big booming voice that's blabbering all of the time?
Just ignore me.
And it's also hilarious how John Cleese gets Donald to stay in the cartoon by telling him that the villain wins in the end, when it turns out to be a pile of bullshit. With hilarious moments and great fourth wall jokes, The Nutcracker is one of the funniest Christmas Mickey Mouse cartoons ever made from Mickey Mouse Works.
Right, just for that, I'm kicking you out of the story. Wow!
Number 3. Mickey's Remedy from 1999. Donald decides to give Mickey a try at controlling his 3 nephews, Huey, Dewey and Louie, but Mickey has more than a few surprises up his sleeve, including the threat of Bulbanian brain fever. This is one of my favourite cartoons from Mickey Mouse Works and House of Mouse because it has Mickey looking after Donald's nephews for the first time, since they normally have to deal with Donald Duck. But this is the first time they've ever been looked after by Mickey, and they of course take advantage of Mickey's good nature, until he finds out the truth and goes through a great plan in the name of sweet revenge.
Seeing Mickey go through all this trouble just to teach Huey and Dewey a lesson really is like Bugs Bunny antics. So that just proves that Who Framed Roger Rabbit is canon in Mickey Mouse's universe.
Yes, the antics he goes through just to get revenge on the boys is very Bugs Bunny-ish, almost as if he took inspiration from the bunny himself. A great cartoon with great gags and a great payback from Mickey on the boys. Mickey's Remedy is one of the funniest cartoons from Mickey Mouse Works and House of Mouse, and I still look forward to watching it whenever it's on. Number 2. Around the World in 80 Days from 1999. You may remember I've done a full review of this cartoon a few years ago, so you'll get the full details of my thoughts on it then. But it's basically following the adaptation of the original story, as Mickey Mouse must circle the globe in 80 days in order to receive his inheritance and save an orphanage he runs. This has many characters including Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, and Scrooge McDuck as the villain, as well as a variety of characters making cameos. But what makes this one stand out to me is Mickey and Minnie's role in the film, with Mickey as the main hero and Minnie as the Princess of Bombay. This is one of my favourite roles of Minnie Mouse I've ever seen, especially with that cute little Indian outfit that she has.
This is one of my favourites for a number of reasons that I've mentioned in my review of the cartoon. It's a fun story, Scrooge McDuck is the villain, and Minnie Mouse has one of the cutest outfits I've ever seen. And there's a really sweet moment between her and Mickey near the end of the cartoon.
As I said, you'll hear my full thoughts on the special in my original review of this. But Around the World in 80 Days is one of my all-time favourite Mickey Mouse cartoons, and I always look forward to putting it on whenever I feel like putting it on.
I love you, not your money.
Gosh, really?
You bet.
And my number 1 Mickey Mouse cartoon is Mickey's Christmas Carol from 1985. You'll get the full details of what I think of this cartoon in my review I did a few Christmases ago. But this basically follows the story of the classic Charles Dickens story of Scrooge McDuck, who plays Ebenezer Scrooge, who gets visited by 3 spirits of Christmas and is shown the error of his ways. This was one of the first Christmas Carol adaptations I'd seen in my childhood, with the other one being the Muppet Christmas Carol. But this is among one of the best for many reasons. The various cameos of Disney characters, not just Mickey Mouse characters, but characters from other Disney films like Robin Hood and so on and so forth. Getting Scrooge McDuck to play the main character of Ebenezer Scrooge is an instant win. And the fact that they managed to fit the whole story into a half-hour short. And that's not a very easy thing to do these days.
As I said in my review, this is one of the first versions of Christmas Carol I'd ever seen as a kid. And looking back at it today, it still holds up. Especially having Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer. That's just really fitting to me.
And all the casting choices are really good casting choices in my opinion. You've got Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer Scrooge, Mickey Mouse as Bob Cratchit, Donald Duck as Nephew Fred, Goofy as Jacob Marley, Jiminy Cricket as the Ghost of Christmas Past, Willie the Giant as the Ghost of Christmas Present, and Pete as the Ghost of Christmas Future. This cartoon has all the things you'd expect from a Christmas Carol adaptation. Whimsical moments, scary moments, really scary moments at times, and just an all-around happy ending that shows us that even the grouchiest of men can change their ways on Christmas. A great adaptation to a great Dickens story, Mickey's Christmas Carol is one of the best Mickey Mouse cartoons I've ever seen, as well as my number 1 Mickey Mouse cartoon of all time. And I always look forward to putting it on every Christmas.
And those are my top 10 Mickey Mouse cartoons. Are there any that I missed out? Well, put them down in the comment section below and let me know what your favourite Mickey Mouse cartoons are. I'm Dalek44, wishing you a happy birthday, Mickey. That's the reason I feel like watching a Mickey Mouse cartoon. Which one should it be? How about Around the World in 80 Days? For like the 100th time since I've been around. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, it's that time again.
To have elective surgery? To change our underwear?
No! It's time to watch more adverts!
Yep, we're back to review some more adverts from the 90s and early 2000s. As I mentioned several times, these things brought us a lot of joy in between the shows we were watching as kids, and we're here to look at some more of them today.
And since I called the first one after the break, the second one don't go away, and the third one back soon, I'm going to name this one... in 30 minutes. Yeah, they used to say that on Cartoon Network every now and then when they announced when the next show was going to come out. So anyway, in 30 minutes.
Ah yes, this was back in the 90s and early 2000s when Cartoon Network used to do kick-ass promos for their characters. And the Cartoon Network Disco, in my opinion, is one of the best ones.
Your boyfriend.
Glad I don't have to do this for a living.
Gomez, isn't it wonderful?
Oh my darling, oh my darling.
I can't believe I'm getting a stamp like
This was one of the best bits to come out of Cartoon Network, when they put all the cartoon characters together in one place for their promos. And this is one of the best ones by far.
I could talk about every single cartoon character that makes a cameo in this little promo, but that would take up the whole video. So the rest you'll just have to figure out for yourselves. But it's a great combination of new characters and old characters being together in the same environment.
Okay, are you in a groovy mood? Out of sight!
What's all the hubbub about this place anyway?
Funny, I remember playing that game a lot when I was a kid. It wasn't as boring as they make it seem in this advert.
Oh yeah, the Haribo kid. He's sure to light some fins up at this party. I love how even the granny gets into the party after she does the boring musical chairs game.
After breakfast, you can tidy that mess, Frankie.
Ah yes, the famous Rice Krispies with those three icons, Snap, Crackle and Pop.
Hocus pocus, alakazam, snap, crackle, pop.
Kellogg's Rice Krispies, the magic part of your nutritious breakfast.
For those of you who don't remember, this was from before the characters used to be plasticine animation and then CGI. And this is one of the most creative adverts I've ever seen for Rice Krispies.
By the power of my spoon, go tidy this room. Frankie? Oh, fiddlestick.
What? You're fucked, kid.
I think making cereal mascots come to life to do all the tidying up for you is every child's dream.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Kellogg's Rice Krispies, you can't imagine a livelier breakfast.
Ah yes, the film that most probably started off all the other live-action Disney remakes from. But this is the best one by far. Oh, and also I miss Walrus too. But who the hell doesn't miss Walrus? It was one of the greatest shots ever made. And it was a shame it closed before its 100th birthday.
Woolworths and get Homeward Bound for only $2.99.
There's a Teletubbies play pack containing a poster and book with fun activities to develop learning skills. Parents and carers can place an order by credit card on the local number 0645 323130. Or you can send a cheque or postal order payable to BBC Education to this address. BBC Teletubbies, P.O. Box 1996, Wetherby, LS 237LH.
Oh yeah, just pay more to have Teletubbies sent to you when you could just go to the fucking shop and buy it yourself. Quicker, and you won't have to wait for postage. Doesn't that sound like a good idea?
Please, Mr. Pirate, do me no harm.
Ooh la la, Graham. It's a croissant.
Oui, oui, Graham.
Oh, it's not a delicious silly plastic bowl of pun-jungling taste like me.
This is among one of the strangest adverts they've ever made in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, you got two different coloured heads coming out of cereal bowls. It makes no sense.
Quick, close the curtains. Here comes Grandma. Au revoir, Monsieur Poisson. Get down.
Golden Grahams and Cinnamon Grahams. They reckon they're tasty, but you could have them for breakfast.
If heads start popping out of your cereal boxes, then you should probably seek help.
Being a member of the AA...
And how can you ever forget the AAH? That great car company that dedicates itself to mending your car if you've broken down. And it's still going strong today, with many adverts and vans passing through every road you go through.
Satellite technology, so you can always be found. But of course, all you really need to carry is this. Call 0800 444 999 to join now from just £35. Just ask.
For those of you who don't know, Just Ask used to be the AAH's big slogan back in the day. And it's very rare that you hear them use that slogan today.
Just ask.
At Tesco, we've selected a range of Christmas products which we believe offer unbeatable value.
As we're nearing Christmas, who doesn't look forward to these adverts from Tesco's every time they come on? It's just so wonderful to see all these wonderful foods that they advertise every year.
Value at Tesco. Guaranteed.
Robo-Drive from Nico.
Oh, fuck yeah, I remember this toy. This used to be the shit.
Radio control. Robo-Drive from Nico. The fun has just begun.
When I was a kid, that toy was one of the many things in my life that was the shit.
I mean, how can you go wrong with this one? You've got a car that has big wheels, and if you hit a wall and it flips over, then it'll still run. How awesome is that?
Robo-Drive from Nico. The fun has just begun.
Oh yes, another Cartoon Network bumper, but this time with Shaggy and Droopy. And this is one of the most interesting ones I've seen because it mixes the animation with live-action cars. And the way they blend the characters in with the live-action sequence is very similar to how they did it in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, giving the characters shading and lighting every now and then in the short. And another thing that makes it interesting is how they talk about the differences between Cartoon Network in the UK, United States and other countries.
So tell me again about the 79 countries.
It's like this. Cartoon Network's the same in those countries as it is here, except for little differences.
Example.
Okay. Know what they call pound puppies in Paris?
They don't call them pound puppies.
Nah, they don't have pounds in France. They have the metric system.
Then what do they call them?
They call them Les Puppies Royale.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, what do they call Smurfs in Spain?
Like a Smurf is a Smurf. They just call them Los Smurfs.
Los Smurfs?
Yeah, and in Morocco mole is just called mole.
So it's basically the same as you'd call them in England, except in Morocco you just got the Morocco. A bit lazy, don't you think?
It's also very rare to see Shaggy without Scooby-Doo. I mean, I doubt you would ever get that within the show.
would you look at that? I can't see over the wheel.
Yes, and it's a shame that it's home to some shit stars now.
Right, you lot, from the top.
Ah, good old Churchill. That wonderful dog that says, "Oh yes," to your questions about car and home insurance. And this was the advert that introduced us to the Churchill website.
Churchill, could you save me money on my car and home insurance? Just by calling 0800 200 300?
Well, actually, no. Not just by calling. You can go to churchill.com on the net as well. Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
So this advert kind of raises a question for me. Are these just some doubles of Churchill? Are they like stunt doubles for him? Do they record multiple adverts for Churchill when he's busy with another advert?
Oh.
I don't know, they don't make it very clear. But all the same, it's still very interesting to see more than one Churchill in the same room.
Now you can visit us at churchill.com as well as giving the dog a phone on 0800 200 300.
Oh boy, here we go. One of the most depressing adverts you'll ever see on TV. Dogs Trust. These people are dedicated to helping homeless dogs around the country, and they go into great detail of what happened to a lot of the dogs they take care of.
You see, there are so many dogs that deserve to be loved, like Della here. She's so sweet and trusting, but her owner locked her up and just left her. She can't look people in the eye anymore. Poor Della, it tore her apart. Dennis had a tough time of it too. He was taken out one freezing night and just abandoned, tied to a gate. He's too scared to go out in the dark now. Thankfully they're safe, because Dogs Trust never put a healthy dog down.
It's just one of the most depressive things you'll ever see on TV, and it's still going strong to this very day.
Please call 08457 400 600 now, or visit sponsoradog.org.uk and sponsor a dog for £1 a week. That'll pay for food, shelter and vet's bills. In return, your new furry friend will write and send you pictures. Bullshit. You'll even get a certificate. You see, I know what it's like to be alone. I adored my owners, but one day they just left me and never came back. I couldn't understand why they didn't love me anymore.
Oh my god, this is so depressing.
Sponsor a dog for £1 a week. Just dial 08457 400 600 and help mend a broken heart. Thank you, and happy Christmas.
Can we change to another advert, please?
This is Zordon calling the Red...
That's more like it. Power Rangers toys.
My sensors indicate danger is near. You must morph to warrior mode immediately.
You got it, Zordon!
The awesome Thunderzords and the evil Lord Zed. How can you go wrong with these things?
Unicorn, Yellow Ranger's Griffin, and Pink Ranger's Firebird. Together you'll become the...
This advert was kick-ass back then, and it's still kick-ass to this very day.
Now available on home video and audio cassette, the White Ranger series.
Who remembers these old Skips adverts? It was about these two kids that would hang out with each other and they would go through some crazy adventures. And yet I can only remember there being 2 adverts for these kids. But this one was one that was repeated the most on Cartoon Network when I was a kid.
Certain will have to wait, Alfie. The Wizard of Stodge has turned the sea into lumpy porridge.
Ha ha! Get stuck into that lot!
Crikey, we need to save the whale.
So, what the hell is this wizard's deal anyway? He just turns the water into not water and, like, tends to kill whales and other sea life? That's fucked up.
This is no joke, I can tell you.
Time for large-scale melting.
I'm having a whale of a time now.
Very interesting advert, to say the least. But it's quite entertaining if you like this sort of thing. Though I personally prefer it when it's the tart.
Let your skips, you just win!
We'll be waiting because with skips, anything's physically possible.
Cartoon Network again, but this time it's with Dexter. This came from a range of promos where they tried to get the characters to do different things on their shows. One was introducing Cow and Chicken to their own show, another was introducing Johnny Bravo to his show, And this one with Dexter being forced to do dancing was one of the funniest.
Dexter, your show's been doing great, but this season we want to try a whole new way to promote the show. Dexter, Duke of the Dance. Something wrong?
Our show is not about dance. It is about my laboratory. It is about science.
Now, Dexter kids love the dance, and we want the kids to love the Dex. So Dex dances.
No, Dex does not. No, Dex does not. No, Dex does not. It was in my contract.
Well, as long as you get paid.
Oh yes, the Barclaycards advert that introduced us to Johnny English. And these were the adverts that kick-started the movie itself, as I mentioned in my review.
If you listen to his clothing, I'll get the local doctor. Al medico aquí, perto. Habang adior. Last.
What is it, sir?
Apparently he is the local doctor. That's enough loosening now, Boff.
Looking for his Barclaycard, sir.
His Barclaycard? This man's in no state to go shopping.
No, I'm going to phone him up for medical advice, sir.
You're going to phone Barclaycard for medical advice?
Barclaycard International Rescue, sir. They can send doctors and...
Look, we're wasting time here, Boff. This man has a serious case of snakebite, and there's only one thing that's going to save him. I'm going to have to locate the wound and suck out the poison.
I think it's very interesting today to hear that a Barclaycard company that sells credit cards would even go through medical advice. I mean, not that many card companies do that nowadays.
Well, I thought I had a solution, but then...
A very interesting start to one of the greatest British secret agent films ever made. This advert is very entertaining and mini-movie-like. And it's got Rowan Atkinson. How can you go wrong there?
Tempo Preschool Video offers the perfect entertainment for the under fives.
Oh, such childhood memories with Tempo Preschool Video. These always used to pop up at Tempo Preschool Video VHS tapes.
And I Want a Cat and Other Stories by Tony Ross includes the best-selling toddler classic I Want My Potty and Super Duper Jezebel. There's lots of fun for all the family. Sing along to all your favourite rhymes with Tempo's very own golden treasury of nursery rhymes. There's lots of favourite friends in the 6 stories featured on the Mr. Men and Little Miss video.
And the only one I had that had this advert was The Jungle. And some of you may not remember that show as well as I do, but I may do a review of that one day to wrap you up on the information for it.
Adventures of Spot. And learning can also be fun with Spot's alphabet and Spot Learns to Count, introducing basic educational concepts that any child can enjoy. Young Tom Pottage has difficulty coming to terms with his alphabet and counting, but Postman Pat is always ready to lend a hand. A timeless favourite with all children are the Paddington Bear stories, written by Michael Bond and narrated by Sir Michael Horton.
By far the best Paddington adaptation ever made.
The Elephant features in these gentle stories, delightfully narrated by Simon Cadell. And perfect for pre-bedtime viewing are the Tempo range of classic tales. The tales of Aesop are brought to life with delightful puppet animation and humorously narrated by Tom Baker. Antonia's story includes well-loved stories told by Jan Francis. There's something for everyone with Tempo Video.
Except for the parents who buy it because it's only for preschool kids. So, kind of false advertising there. But hey, if it's Tempo Preschool, you gotta love it. Who remembers this old comic relief advert? It's set in a field where they grow tomatoes that seem like tomatoes.
I see trees of green, red roses too.
And you've got John Cleese in it.
I see them bloom.
But it turns out the tomatoes are actually red noses.
And I think
yes! Any advert that has John Cleese in it is an ultimate win. Especially when it comes to something like comic relief.
The
man from Sainsbury, he say yes!
The new crop of comic relief Red Hooters, available from Sainsbury's.
Oh, good old Hendren. That VHS tape company that made VHS tapes. And the ones I always had were railway documentaries. And this intro is one of the longest intros I've ever seen for a VHS company.
This feels more like either a short film or an advert for a new security system or something. I mean, you could just make this a parody for a security system or whatever type of advert you want. Just watch.
Notice how peaceful and tranquil this fair building is, with the exposition of a statue. But not all homes like this are safe, because criminals can easily find their way into the building, as you've just seen here. The criminal sneaks around the room, looking for anything valuable he may want to bring with him. See how he walks quietly up to the desk? Notices a picture on the wall? And that's the old cliché of hide in a safe. He can easily crack his way into the safe and find the valuables. In this case, jewelry. But what's this? The wind has blown over the table, alerting the criminal that he should make a getaway really, really fast. But what's he doing now? Oh, he's dropped the jewels, and he's turned off the VHS. How interesting of a criminal. Henry, the VHS company entertaining viewers all over the UK. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you.
See?
From A Bug's Life, come Hopper and Flick!
This is what introduced us to interactive talking room guards for kids. Although I never actually had the one for Flip, I always had the one for Hopper. And I would always use Hopper as a room guard when I was going out. Even if I was going on a holiday abroad for a week. I loved it that much.
Flick, you're my hero.
You're my best friend.
I need you to guard my room from intruders.
Security system is activated. Someone's in the room! Intruder alert! Identify yourself! What kind of bug are you?
Christ! That is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, creepy image of the dog. But still a very fun advert for the first talking room guard ever made.
I see we had some visitors today.
Flick and Hopper room guards now at Woolworths.
Huh, another Cartoon Network short. These things were around a lot in the 90s, but this one feels more like an intermission between the cartoons, where you have a short with Dexter's laboratory and showing Major Glory, and at the same time it's almost like an advertisement for this made-up product that they made.
Suddenly, I, the evil math magician, shall capture all the children and force them to do homework forever.
Oh no, not homework forever. Not homework forever! That is the worst crime you could ever commit, man! Forcing kids to do homework forever? Oh, the humanity!
Just then...
Major Glory!
You asked for it!
No violence in schools?
You're right, but there is one way to stop you.
No, not justice! Fruit pie's a delicious treat you'd have to be crazy to hate!
Sounds pretty much like every other sweet I ever had as a child.
Do I give up?
Later.
Thanks, Major Glory!
Don't thank me, thank fucking fruit flies!
What?
I said, don't thank them! Oh.
Makes you wonder what Justice Fruit Pies would taste like if it was made in real life, even though we're never really going to find out. Still a fun little short anyway.
Oh.
There's excitement going round, there's a party going down. Twister!
Oh yeah, good old Twister. The hot spot.
Yeah, Twister! Your feet and hands go down, but you gotta stay up.
I used to play this game quite a few times with my family when I was a kid. It was fun back then, and it's still fun to this very day.
Twister, the hottest game around!
At the animal hospital,
Typical of girls' toy.
you need a full checkup. Don't worry, I'm only taking your temperature.
But this is one of the most interesting girls' toys I've ever seen, as it teaches kids on how to be pet veterinarians at a pet hospital.
Quick, we need the emergency rescue 4x4. Here, boy. Now let's get you all cleaned up.
I know an animal hospital that's better than this one. The workers, I believe, were a dog, a cat, 2 bears, a hippo, a turtle, and 2 mice. And if I remember rightly, it was on the top of a hill. But Remind me, I can't remember what the name of that hospital was. I guess it doesn't matter.
A fun educational toy for girls, and it's never going to leave our heads anytime soon.
Safe and sound with the Animal Hospital.
Remember those times when Smarties used to do pretty fucked up ads? But this is one of the less fucked up ads that Smarties have ever done. They always used to give us these random questions that were unanswerable, and they'd always end with the slogan that only Smarties had the answer. And yet, they never actually tell us the answer to these questions that they are asking. But if it was Smarties related, you knew we were going to buy the stuff anyway.
Why is it not smart? Only Smarties have the answer.
Ah, Maltesers. The chocolates that bring people together.
Carlo. Look me in the eyes, Carlo.
Sad. Ah, I remember the days when I used to eat Maltesers a lot. But I never have them anymore. Because I'm gluten intolerant and Maltesers have gluten in them. Life sucks sometimes.
And it's quite honestly the thing I miss the most eating. And I'm waiting for them to make us gluten-free Maltesers one day.
Sad. Respect me. Respect the family.
But whether it happens or not, I can still look back at these adverts and remember the good times I had with Maltesers.
At Asda, we've always believed in low prices.
Ah yes, Asda advertisements were everywhere back in the 90s and early 2000s. They would always boast about how they'd roll back the prices of their products. Whether it be toilet paper, meat or any other food products. They would just guarantee you that they would roll back the price.
Over 1,000 prices throughout the store that will roll back and stay back. From groceries.
And fresh food. To drinks.
You could say we're obsessed with permanently low prices, and now we're rolling them back to stay even lower.
And it used to have the old-fashioned Asda slogan by tapping their side buttons twice. These kinds of adverts were all over the place in the 90s, and I loved them back then, and I still love them today.
And that's all the adverts I got today. Enjoy your products from the 90s and early 2000s, and the shows from the early 90s and 2000s that came with those advertisements. I'm Dalek44. I'll see you next time, folks. Hey, I'm gonna get some lunch. Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Let's talk about the Powerpuff Girls.
The Powerpuff Girls is an American superhero animated TV series created by animator Craig McCracken and produced by Hanna-Barbera for Cartoon Network. Its original run went from 1998 to 2005. The show centers around Blossom, Bubbles and Buttercup, three kindergarten-aged girls with superpowers. The girls live their lives in their city of Townsville and frequently save the world before bedtime from the many villains including Mojo Jojo, Fuzzy Lumpkins, Him, the Gangrene Gang, Seducer, and many others. The show starred many famous voice actors including Kathy Cavadini, Tara Strong, E.G. Daly, Tom King, Tom Kenny, Roger L. Jackson, and many more. It ran for 6 seasons, got a Christmas special, a 10th anniversary special, a CGI special, and a crappy remake in 2016. And of course it had that kick-ass theme song by Biss.
Fighting crime, trying to save the world. Here they come just in time. The Powerpuff Girls.
This show was so popular that it ended up getting more seasons than some of the other Cartoon Network shows, as well as a bad reboot. And with how popular it was, you'd think that they'd probably come up with a movie or something to celebrate how wonderful the show was. What the? I could have sworn my door just opened.
Hello, Dalek44.
Oh, hello, Sue. I thought you'd been filming your next show.
We are. But Richard gave me and the boys some time off.
And you came over to see me?
Of course. I thought we could watch a movie together and... Oh, I love your new bedroom, Dalek44.
I thank you. We've done it up during the summer, and it was well worth it. Wait a minute. How did you get in my house in the first place?
Don't you remember? You gave me a spare house key.
Oh, yeah. I forgot why my spare key was missing from the hangar. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go over to my DVD shelves over there and pick a movie for us to watch?
Goody! What about this one?
Perfect! The movie based on the TV series I was talking about earlier. The Powerpuff Girls movie. The Powerpuff Girls movie was released in July 3rd, 2002 by Warner Bros. Pictures. It was directed by the series creator Craig McCracken. It serves as a prequel to the series and tells the origin story of how the Powerpuff Girls were created and how they came to be defenders of Townsville.
So what are your thoughts on the Powerpuff Girls movie today, Dalek44?
I'm glad you asked that question, Sue. Let's watch the movie and find out. Professor Utonium, played by Tom King, creates a mixture of sugar, spice and everything nice in hope of producing the perfect little girl to improve Townsville, a city plagued by crime and injustice. His destructive chimpanzee lab assistant Jojo shoves the professor into a container of chemical X, accidentally breaking it and spilling it into the mixture, which explodes in Jojo's face. The experiment is successful in producing 3 little girls whom the professor names Blossom, Bubbles and Buttercup. He also discovers that the girls have gained superpowers from the added chemical X. Despite the girls' recklessness with their powers, they all immediately grow to love each other as a family. During the first day of school, the girls learn about the game of tag and begin to play among themselves, which quickly grows destructive once they use their powers. The girls take their game downtown, accidentally causing massive damage to the city until the professor calms them down. The next day, the girls are treated as outcasts by the citizens of Townsville as a result of the destruction they have caused, and the professor is arrested for creating the girls. Realizing that using their powers again will only anger the townspeople more, the girls try to make their own way home from school on foot. They become lost in an alleyway and are ambushed by the Gang Green Gang, only to be rescued by Jojo, whose brain has been mutated by the Chemical X explosion, giving him super intelligence and human speech. Planning to control the city, Jojo gains the girls' sympathy by saying that he is also hated for his powers. Jojo convinces the girls to help him build a laboratory and machine powered by Chemical X, which he claims will earn them the affections of the city.
Liars!
Jojo rewards the girls with a trip to the local zoo, where he secretly implants small teleportation devices in the primates there. That night, Jojo teleports the primates into his lab and uses his new machine to inject them with Chemical X, turning them into evil mutant primates like himself. The next morning, after the professor is released from prison, the girls show him all the good they have done, only to discover the city under attack by primates. Jojo, renaming himself Mojo Jojo, publicly announces the girls as his assistants, which further damages their reputation and turns the distorted professor against them. Dejected, the girls exile themselves to an asteroid in outer space. Mojo Jojo announces his intention to rule the planet, but becomes frustrated when his minions begin concocting their own plans to terrorize the people of Townsville. Overhearing the turmoil from space, the girls return to Earth and rescue the citizens, realizing they can use their powers to fight the primates. And after the girls defeat Mojo Jojo's army, they have to defeat Mojo himself and save Townsville from his tyranny. This movie's a wonderful backstory to this Cartoon Network classic in my opinion. What do you think, Sue?
Well, it's a great backstory for one of Cartoon Network's most popular characters. But do you think it still holds up?
Yes. Yes, it does. When I was a kid, this movie was a huge deal. Cartoon Network have made quite a few movies based on their shows, like Dexter's Laboratory Ego Trip, but they were mostly TV films, so this is the first time that Cartoon Network had ever made a movie for the big screen. And that was a huge deal back then, and it proves to be a great prequel film for the show. But a great story like the Powerpuff Girls movie can't be made great without its great major characters, and this movie isn't short of them. Blossom, voiced by Kathy Carradini, is the intelligent and dutiful leader of the girls. She could be quite bossy at times, but means well, and just wants the best in her teammates.
I always loved Blossom, because she's like me. She's the voice of reason that she is very pretty, like me.
Well, I think you're sweeter than Blossom, to be honest, Sue. Bubbles, played by the famous Tara Strong, is the sweet and cheerful member. She's very sensitive and can easily get her feelings hurt. This especially shows when the townspeople reject them as outcasts and freaks. Buttercup, played by E.G. Daly, is the tough and brash member of the team. Like Bubbles, she can be quite sensitive too, but more anger comes out of her than sadness compared to Bubbles. Professor Utonium, voiced by Tom Kane, is the Powerpuff Girls' creator and father. He's one of the many characters that the famous Tom Kane voices on Cartoon Network. Other characters he's voiced include Mr. Hairman from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and one of the Republic generals from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and many other characters that I can't really be bothered to talk about right now. But he's a delight in this movie. He's like the new father who's trying to learn to be a good parent, and often comes across things that good parents don't do, such as,
all I gotta do is be a good parent. Note to self, good parents don't leave their kids home alone.
The Mayor of Townsville, voiced by the famous Tom Kenny, is a delight in this movie as he is in the show. He's leader of the city of Townsville, and yet his childishness and love for pickles can get in the way of his mayorly duties.
I love how childish the mayor is within the show, and Tom Kenny's voice really brings that childlike charm of the character.
You're quite right there, Sue. Tom Kenny was the best choice for the mayor in my opinion. His voice is just great for this character. And every time the mayor's on screen, he's just a delight to watch. I mean, everything he does and says, it's just so freaking hilarious. And like in the show, Tom Kenny also voices the narrator, who always gives us the introduction to the episode and then the ending of the episode. Except here, he only shows up at the beginning and the end of the movie. Whereas in each episode of the show, he would introduce the episode, then end the episode, and do a couple of talks in between the actions in each episode. But here, he remained silent for most of the film, only giving us the introduction and then the ending. Now, most people would probably hate this because the narrator had a big presence in the show despite not knowing what he looks like. But I honestly have no problem with this. It just gives the characters time to breathe and do what they do and just focus on the story. An unwelcome change for some fans, but for me it's a welcome change. Then there's the movie's villain, Mojo Jojo, played by Roger L. Jackson, a chimpanzee mutated by Chemical X who becomes the Powerpuff Girls' archenemy. When I used to watch the show as a kid, Mojo was always my favourite character and villain. In the show he was mostly a comical villain who would come up with new plans to defeat the girls but would always fail. But in this movie he's darker than he used to be in the show.
Wait a minute, Mojo Jojo was mostly comical in the show. How could he be darker in the movie?
I'm glad you asked that question, Sue. Let me explain. When he meets the girls, he uses their depression from being outcasts into his advantage and to build his laboratory. And when I was a kid, I always used to think that he built his laboratory on top of the volcano himself. So it was really surprising to me to find out that the girls actually helped him build his lair. And he mutates many monkeys into being his evil minions, only to have them betray him and come up with ideas of their own. And the movie also comes with one of his biggest rants of all time.
Stop! Cease! Desist! Do not continue with your ramblings, for my ramblings are the ramblings to be obeyed, for I am the king, supreme leader, and all-around dictator. Don't you see? All you monkeys are my plan. So your plans are my plans, because you made plans, and my plan was to make you. I plan to rule the planet, not to have my plans planned to stop me. I am your creator. I am your king. I am Mojo Jojo. Obey me!
Wow! Roger L. Jackson must have been exhausting after recording that rant.
I bet he was, Sue. I could just imagine him panting for air and a glass of water at the end of this recording.
And when his first plan fails, he even uses chemical X on himself to increase his power and abilities. And the results are pretty scary, even by today's standards.
Wow, that is terrifyingly brilliant, wouldn't you agree, Sue? Sue? Sue, are you alright?
Yes. It's just that Mojo frightened me a bit.
Oh, it's alright, Sue. The scary giant monkey's gone now. Love that panda.
So Mojo is definitely darker and more serious in this movie compared to the show. So it's probably my theory that Mojo used up a lot of his evil and seriousness in the movie, and turned to comical side when he came to the show. Much like Lord Zed's change to goofiness near Series 2 when he married Rita Repulsa. It's also really nice to see the full details of Mojo's backstory as well as the girl's backstory. I mean, we already knew from the first season how Mojo became the evil genius he is today, but we've never gotten the full details of what happened after the accident. So this movie does a great job of filling in the gaps for you.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I, Mojo Jojo, have a town to take over. I have a world to rule. I have to seize control of an area and force its inhabitants to follow my way of thinking, even if it means taking extreme measures!
The movie also includes various cameos and appearances from other characters, including Mitch Mitchison, Miss Keaton, Miss Bellum, Fuzzy Lumpkins robbing a convenience store, and the Gangrene Gang. In fact, the Gangrene Gang are actually the first villains that the girls encountered before getting their asses whooped by JoJo. And out of the gang and Fuzzy, the Gangrene Gang make the most cameos compared to them and Fuzzy Lumpkins. Not bad for characters who were just your everyday punks. The animation in this movie is fantastic, as it was back then.
Keep in mind, the animation for the Powerpuff Girls was already top-notch as TV shows go, and they had to up it a lot for the movie. And thankfully, they had the budget and the time and dedication to do so.
With new and improved character designs and new shades of colour, and a few 3D technologies put in here and there, and my favourite update in this movie is Mojo's design. In the show he looked like your normal everyday chimpanzee, but in the movie they made him look more demonic and diabolical by giving him pointer ears and a longer face, and this movie would be carried on from the movie to the rest of the show during its last few years. And this is the design I've come to love the most. In fact, when I do drawings of Mojo Jojo every now and then, his design from the movie is the one I do the most. It's just the most memorable design for Mojo to me.
The animation brings out the bright, colourful side of Townsville, and also the dark, harsh colours in the darker moments.
And the music was done by James L. Venerable, who had been a part of the show since the beginning. The guy just knows what type of music to do for whatever scene is going on in the movie. And it makes me think that people should hire him to do more music for other films. He's just so damn good. When the movie was first released, it received mixed reviews from critics, some people saying that it's probably too violent for a kids' film. But I honestly don't see why people would make that kind of criticism, since the show was known for its violence. And that's just part of superhero life, isn't it? So just to complain about the amount of violence in a film about superheroes when you get violence in other superhero films like Batman, Superman and so on and so forth, it's just really weird to me. And the movie grossed $16.4 million in the box office when it had an $11 million budget. So despite being a mixed bag in the box office, it did earn at least more than what they spent making the film. The movie even came with a Dexter's Laboratory short titled Chicken Scratch, which was shown prior to the film, and it later aired as part of the series' 4th season. And you can even find it as a DVD extra on the Powerpuff Girls movie DVD. And while the short isn't as good as it used to be during its first 2 seasons, it is quite entertaining and really funny in places, especially if you're a fan of Dexter's Laboratory. And over the years, as the movie has gotten more and more attention, I've noticed some fan art of the Powerpuff Girls movie 2 with him as the villain, and that just makes me want to see a Powerpuff Girls movie sequel to the original show in real life. I mean, who here besides me just wants to see how the girls meet him for the first time, and what made him decide to destroy the Powerpuff Girls? I mean, there's just so many interesting things that could be answered in that sort of movie. Crave McCracken, make it happen. So to me, the Powerpuff Girls movie is one of the greatest movies that Cartoon Network has ever made, as well as being the first movie they've made for the big screen. It's a movie that definitely deserves more attention than what it gets today. And it's definitely better than having to sit through the crappy remake that's been done. It's got great characters, great animation, great music, a great backstory to the world's greatest superheroes, and it's just an all-around great movie in my opinion. So in my opinion, the Powerpuff Girls is one of the greatest animated movies of all time, and I find it a real shame that it doesn't get as much attention as most big screen movies do today.
I agree, Dalek44. This first and the only big screen feature film gives the fans the original show that they wanted to see in the Powerpuff Girls movie.
And if you haven't seen this movie yet, then go and check it out. But if you're going to see this movie, I'd highly recommend checking out the show first, just to get an idea of what the movie is about. Or if you just want to start with this movie to get the prequel story, then start off with this movie. But whichever you choose to start with, I guarantee that you're going to get a lot of good kicks and fun from this movie. It's one of Cartoon Network's finest. Well, it's been real fun looking at this movie with you, Sue.
Well, it's been great fun watching this movie with you, Dalek44, but I must be getting back to the park now.
Okay, but before you go, I think you should say goodbye to everybody in the audience.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
I love that panda. See you next time, folks.
Well, it's a great comeback. It's backstory, not comeback.
I am Mojo, obey me!
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. Well, Christmas is over, 2019 has begun, and here is my delayed final episode for Series 5 of my review show. And it's been a really good Christmas. I got lots of good gifts. Even though I made a video about it, do you want to know some of the stuff I got? Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Batman the Animated Series, the complete Blu-ray box set, All Around to Mrs. Brown's Series 2, Mrs. Brown's Boys Christmas specials from the year before last year, and the opportunity to go to the Doctor Who escape game with my parents in February. And among all that, do you know what else I got this year? A fun little comedy movie called Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Teen Titans Go to the Movies is a 2018 American animated superhero musical comedy film based on the TV series Teen Titans Go, which was adapted from the DC Comics superhero team of the same name. And before I go into the movie, I should talk about the show first. The show is a mixed bag, with young children and regular Cartoon Network viewers from today's generation loving it, with fans of the original Teen Titans cartoon from the early cartoons absolutely hating it. And I'm one of those few people that accepts Teen Titans Go for what it is.
A dumb kids show with stupid jokes that would make even the littlest, tiniest babies laugh. But having said that, how does the movie compare to the show? Well, let's have a look. After attempting to stop the Balloon Man, the Teen Titans find out that the Justice League and other members of the DC universe have their own movies. The heroes then criticise the Titans for being childish, not taking anything seriously, and bring up the fact that they don't actually do anything heroic. After going to the premiere of Batman Again, humiliates himself after assuming that there'll be a movie about him, and is laughed at by the audience. At the rest of the team's suggestion, Robin resolves that in order to get a movie made about him and the Titans, they need an arch-nemesis. Nearby, Slade breaks into the Star Labs to steal a titanium crystal. The Titan survivor attempted to stop him, but he swiftly defeats them and insults them with his mind manipulation. The next day, the team go to Hollywood to pursue Robin's dream. Upon arriving, they encounter a director named Jade Wilson, who is responsible for all the superhero movies being made. She turns down the Titans' request to be in a movie, of course, but explains that the only way she would make a movie about them is if they were the only superheroes in the world. The Titans take her words literally by going back in time to prevent the origins of the superheroes, but end up ruining the present, forcing them to go back to undo their blunder. The Titans then make another attempt to stop Slade, who arrives at Brain Tech to infuse his crystal's power. The Titans eventually stop him, this time putting up an actual fight. They secure the crystal, but Slade escapes, resolving to split Robin from his teammates. The next day, Jade invites the Titans back to Hollywood and announces that she will make a movie about them due to their recent fight with Slade. While Robin is given a tour of the premises, Raven, Beast Boy, Starfire and Cyborg venture out to cause mischief. They find a doomsday machine that is heavily guarded by superheroes and try to destroy it. But Jade arrives and informs them that Doomsday is just a terrible acronym for a new streaming service for the new movie she's making. She resolves to drop the rest of the Titans from the film and make it solely about Robin, which he happily accepts, turning his back on everything important to him, even his own friends. But upon finishing the movie, Robin discovers that this may have been Slade's diabolical plan to take over the world the whole time, and it's up to him and the rest of the Teen Titans to save the world from Slade's diabolical takeover. So, what's Teen Titans Go to the movie like compared to Teen Titans Go? I'll be honest with you guys. The movie is actually funnier than the show.
You'd have to be crazy!
Yeah, surprisingly this movie is actually funnier than the TV show itself. Yeah, of course it still has some of the bad jokes that the show's known for, like fart jokes, and even makes fun of the Waffles joke. But a lot of the jokes in this movie are really, really funny. When this movie was first announced, I had no interest in going to see it at all. But when I heard that Nicolas Cage was going to voice Superman and Will Arnett was going to voice Slade, that had me hooked for it immediately. Just hearing that Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman and Will Arnett was going to play Slade in this movie just had me immediately hooked. And that's quite ironic, since when this movie was first announced I had no interest in watching it whatsoever. Now let's talk about the characters. Robin is the leader of the Teen Titans, who utilises a staff and various weapons to fight crime. Unlike the other Titans, he has no superpowers, so relies on his weapons and athletic skills and fighting skills to fight crime. This movie shows him as kind of egotistical and wanting to be the big star of a big movie, like all the other superheroes. And that's very different from the character he usually is in the DC universe. There's Beast Boy, another member of the Teen Titans who has the superpower to shapeshift into different animals. And he's basically just the idiot boy who likes to be hip but isn't really that cool, in all honesty. Sort of like one of those kids you know in school but sort of wish you didn't know. Cyborg is the roboticized humanoid member who has the power of using weapons from his mechanical body and is also capable of super strength. And his character is best described as the hip black guy who knows everything about the past, like the 70s, the 80s, 90s, cassette tapes, videotapes and whatnot. And I honestly love this guy's voice, it's just so hip and hilarious at times. There's Raven, a half-human, half-demon sorceress who is the daughter of a supremely powerful and dangerous demon named Trigon. She possesses telekinetic abilities. Unlike in the show and the other show, she's voiced by Tara Strong, who gives 100% performance in my opinion. She's able to take some things seriously, but is still an idiot like the rest of the Titans. But she has some amount of brain cells in her head, compared to the other guys. And for those of you who don't know by now, I absolutely adore Tara Strong. And even though she could be in better shows than this, like Powerpuff Girls, the original, Unikitty, and some other good shows like Batman the Animated Series, she actually brings a lot of life to her character of Raven. I mean, yeah, she's kind of an idiot like everyone else, but I really do enjoy Tara's performance as the character.
Starfire is a Tamaranian princess and member of the Teen Titans who has the ability to shoot bright green coloured bolts of ultraviolet energy and green laser beams from her hands and eyes, and is capable of flying faster than light as well as superhuman strength. And compared to her 2000s counterpart from the original show, she's still the learning alien that we know from the original cartoon, but there's not really much to define her character apart from the fact that she has "the" in every sentence. I mean, I don't think she could go like 5 minutes without saying "the" or "the" in every sentence that comes out of her mouth. Then there's the main villain of the movie, Slade, played by the hilarious Will Arnett. Yep, that's right, Slade is voiced by Lego Batman himself. A supervillain with superhuman strength and the power of mind manipulation, whose plans may be bigger than the Teen Titans think. Compared to the other incarnations of Deathstroke, this version of Slade is more egotistical and comedic about his abilities to take over the world and use his mind manipulation, and he mostly just uses his mind manipulation abilities to take advantage of the Titans' stupidity. And there's this hilarious moment in his introduction when the Titans confuse him for Deadpool, just because of their similarities.
Stop right there. Deadpool?
Deadpool? What? I'm not Deadpool.
I thought Deadpool was a good guy.
Why does everybody think of Deadpool?
You got them guns. And the swords.
Yeah, well, lots of people have guns and swords, okay? On the way here, I passed like 25 people with guns and swords. By the way, he should be saying that he's not me, okay? Because I came out, like, way before he did.
That cracks me up every time I watch it.
And while this incarnation of Slade is nowhere near as good as Ron Perlman's Slade from the original early 2000s cartoon, Will Arnett's Slade is so damn hilarious. I mean, this guy just literally steals the movie for me.
The Justice League will stop you. Sorry, my pathetic friend. But the Justice League won't be coming. Because they're watching a movie, and as considerate moviegoers, I'm sure they would have turned off their mobile devices. Unlike some people.
There's Jade Wilson, voiced by Christian Bell, a famous filmmaker whom the Teen Titans tried to persuade to make a movie about them. She's sort of like the high in energy movie director who's really excited to make the next movie about the next superhero. But there may be some connection between her and Slade in the movie.
And for those of you out there who've never seen Teen Titans go to the movies before and want to avoid any spoilers that may regard Slade and Jade Wilson, then skip to this little bit below here to avoid any spoilers. For those of you who are still around, I gave you a fair warning.
Near the end of the film, we learn that Jade Wilson was actually Slade in disguise the whole time, and his plan was to give every superhero movie deal so that they'd be too busy filming to stop him from stealing technology from their cities to power his mind manipulation device to take over the world. It's a really diabolical plan, and it's just a great twist that I never saw coming.
And this is one of the best reveals I've ever seen because I never saw it coming. I mean, I had some suspicion that Jade Wilson must have had some relation with Slade, like maybe a distant relative or something like that. But I never expected Slade to be wearing a lady director mask over his Slade mask the whole time. That's just a great and hilarious twist.
Everyone will be mine to control. People will rob banks for me. People will build monuments of me. And if I tell them to pick me up from the airport on short notice, they will pick me up. You know what asshole that is.
And other characters in this movie include Superman, voiced by Nicolas Cage, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, Atom, Aquaman, and many other superheroes from the DC universe. Like I said, this movie has a lot of really funny jokes going for it. Like, they make fun of superhero movies from the past and the present. They even poke fun of the Green Lantern movie that was made.
It was a Green Lantern movie, but we don't talk about that.
It also does a great job of making fun of Hollywood in general, and movies in general, by how Hollywood are running out of ideas and will make movies about just about anything. As was proven with the Alfred, the movie trailer, the Batcar trailer, and the Bat Utility Belt trailer that's in the film. It's just a hilarious way to make fun of Hollywood. The film also gives us a hilarious cameo from the late Stan Lee.
Amazing, marvelous, stupendous, colossal, tremendous, gigantic, astounding, unbelievable, spectacular, phenomenal! And it's good, too.
We normally know the late Stan Lee for making cameos in Marvel movies, but this is the first and only time he's made a cameo in a DC movie. And he makes the most of every second he's on screen.
And I really love how they did his cameo in this movie. It's just really hilarious and has me on the floor every time I watch it.
Hey everybody, look at me. I'm Stan Lee, doing my subtle cameo.
Excuse me, Mr. Stan.
This is a DC movie? Oh, gee, I gotta get out of here. Hey, Stan Lee? I'm back. I don't care if it's a DC movie. I love cameos.
And in one scene when the teen enters the Warner Brothers studio, when Starfire said, "There's the water tower where the Animaniacs live," I was honestly expecting there to be a cameo from Yakka, Wakka and Dot. But sadly we never got it. But it was still a great callback to one of the greatest 90s cartoons of all time. With additional lightings and shadings on some of the characters, mostly on Slade's mask, but it just doesn't feel like a big screen quality animation. I mean, it still looks like the cheap kind of animation that they have in the show, and they could have at least used their budget to, you know, up the animation style, but it strangely kind of works for this world. Even though it could have been a bigger quality standard of animation, it works in its own way. Yeah, the animation isn't exactly big screen standards and looks more like it was made for TV, but it's decent enough and a slight improvement from the TV show with a realistic sky and whatnot and more shadings, especially on Slade. So yeah, it's not big screen standards, but it's decent enough. And it's also worth pointing out that during the end credits of the film we get a glimpse of the original 2003 versions of the Teen Titans appear, showing that they may have found a way to come back, which was a hint to an upcoming crossover featuring both Titans from both cartoons. And it may or may not lead up to a 6th season to resolve the plots hanging from the cliff. But whether or not that'll happen, we'll just have to wait and see. But it was a really great surprise, and I look forward to seeing what this crossover will be like. Teen Titans Go to the Movies isn't the best superhero movie I've ever seen, but it's one of the funniest superhero comedies I've ever seen. It's got some good jokes, a few bad jokes like you'd expect from the TV series, great actors, Will Arnett giving 100% to Slade, and it's just an all-around funny film at times. I still get a lot of kicks from Will Arnett as Slade because he's one of the funniest characters in the film. And as I said, it's awesome to hear Tara Strong's voice on the big screen for the first time in a while. So in conclusion, Teen Titans Go to the Movies is definitely funnier than the actual show itself. I mean, it is a dumb movie in places with some bad jokes, but mostly has really, really good jokes that had me laughing all the way through. So it's dumb, but enjoyably done, and a ton of fun to watch. Even if you're not a fan of Teen Titans Go, I'd highly recommend this movie as a comedy moviegoer. It's got a lot of fun action, a lot of funny moments, and you may or may not have a blast watching this film. But whether you like the show or not, I'd highly recommend this movie if you're a lover of comedy. You may or may not have a fun time watching it, but you may have to watch it yourself if you're interested to find out. I hope you enjoyed the final review for Series 5 of my review show, and look out for more reviews and animated shows in the future. I'm Dalek44, and I'll see you next time, folks.